That's what got us doing that. Oh shoot. Hi, welcome to the Fantasy Commissioner, and joining us today is the magnificent Mark Thompson.
Hello, everybody.
Apparently, we got to give everyone a little nickname when they come to the show. So today we're here to do our 2020 Keeper presentation show. What you just got done seeing was something that wraps up 2019. Every year we always do a championship video for the winner. That was not made this year, unfortunately, at our meeting. So you just got it presented today. So congratulations to, again, our three-time league champion, Nick Ritz, um, which, of course, in 2020, I think everyone's going to be gunning to
Yeah,
finally bring that dynasty down.
crazy.
Um, but hey, all due respect, I mean, he's done it, and the funny thing is, he's, I think, only won his division twice in the three of them.
Yeah.
He's never been a top
No, you look
two
at his
seed. He's
you look
always
at his
been like
roster. It's
third
not super
seed.
flashy.
But
He's the
he's done it,
Patriots of our
and he's
our
won a few by the grit of his teeth, but he
yeah
pulled them off, and he makes moves, and that's a
yeah
lot of what it is. And you'll see some of his moves in his keepers, I'm sure today, and other people's keepers because he spreads kind of throughout the league. So kind of what we're going to do for our agenda here is we're going to be going through each individual team, and what's going to happen is the camera's going to get turned towards the TV for each presentation. And they're going to be done in order as the way they were handed in. Um, You'll see their face, the team owner's face will pop up, their 10, and then their face will pop again. We'll pause it, turn it back to us, and then we're going to discuss their 10 keepers, look at maybe areas that they need to look at for the draft. And then from there, we will, after all the teams are presented, we're going to look at each division as of right now. So where the 10 keepers stand, how we think each of the four divisions look, who's going to be the strong ones coming out as of right now. And this doesn't count draft. Obviously, draft will be a game changer for a few teams. Um, and then we will from there discuss the top 25 players that weren't kept. And there's some good ones. I
Yeah,
mean,
there really are.
don't get me wrong. This isn't just going to be an all rookie draft. There's some good keepers
Yeah.
that weren't kept, or that possibly should have been keepers, is what I mean.
Right.
And then from there, we're also going to just briefly, we're going to look at the draft a little bit. We're going to look at some of the rookies. Not all of them. You're going to see a video presentation of the rookies as well, and then we'll just maybe select a few handful of them that we'll talk about. And then from there, we'll just get some final thoughts and close the stream. Now, one thing I wanted to point out in the video, you heard the song. It was called Rise, and that was every year we have a theme. And last year's theme was Rise. Who was going to rise and be the winner? Well, he didn't have to really rise far. He was already up there.
Yeah.
He just defended it. But this year's theme is going to pop at the very start of this video. It won't be the song. You're just going to see a graphic that's going to pop up. It's going to have a saying, and that's going to be our theme for 2020. And then that song will actually be played for our intro of our 2020 draft.
Correct.
Like every year, we have an intro for that as well. So from there, anything before we get going you want to say, Mark?
No, congratulations on the win, and welcome to being the Patriots of our actual fantasy football league. Because his team is, I don't know how he does it sometimes. It's smoke and mirrors,
Does that make him Bill Belichick?
pretty much.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. It's awesome, but it's again, we'll look at his roster and the 10 keepers, and I still
You know,
am like, man,
before we go, I just want to say about Nick, it's kind of funny. I remember the first year we ever had our draft, and I want to say it was a second round, but maybe it was a third. So I want to leave that out there. Either way, it was still this was full draft. At the time, we were only 14 teams,
mhm.
and it was obviously round 2 or round 3 of every player available. Okay, Adrian Peterson was the first overall player taken in that draft. I want to say it was the second round. He took the Jets defense. So he's come a long ways, and it was so funny. I remember telling Jimmy, I'm like, hey, I go, he knows his football. You go, you got to watch out for Nick. And then he goes and takes the Jets with the second round pick, and it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't know what he's thinking there, but okay, we'll
I,
go with it.
yeah, again, to put together 3 championships, you're doing something
Yeah,
right. You
yep,
can't fake all of those. That's
no,
for sure. So
no. So
it's crazy.
from there, we're gonna turn the camera and we'll get this underway.
Yep.
There's our championship. That's the winner gets. And here comes our theme. Bring home the glory is the theme for 2020. I will be the first one, Eric Miller. Here we got
Joey Bosa.
Joey Bosa, wide receiver Kelvin Ridley, linebacker Jalen Smith, running back Matt Breida, defensive back Derwin James, wide receiver Mike Williams, wide receiver A.J. Brown, tight end Hayden Hurst, the quarterback from The Ohio State University, Dwayne
jeez.
Haskins, and running back from The Ohio State University, Ezekiel Elliott. Right, there we go. All right. Well, on this one, this was my 10, so I want you to break my 10 down.
All right. So first thing that is unique compared to a lot of the other groups that you're going to see here, I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 other people that kept 3 defensive players on their roster. Um, kind of curious on why you did that
I did that because I mean all three of them are at least top five
at
at
their
their
position.
position
Okay.
for fantasy points and
Sure. Yeah.
everything. And then this way it gives me a solid base of a stat. I can touch other things now. I looked at what other positions I had or what other players I had. I'm like, well, you know, let me see this on my sheet.
I know you made so many moves through the offseason. I'm like, oh yeah, Nick Chubb.
Um,
No, Nick Chubb's no longer on his team.
yeah, and a lot of my moves were also based off trying to
Yeah,
get
to get
the
draft
first
picks and
overall pick,
sure.
the third overall pick,
Yeah.
the eighth overall pick. So I did kind of bleed myself down, and that's what I like about our phase one of the trading is it gives you the opportunity, in a way to help out other
Yeah.
teams because I did help out some other teams by giving them some of my players, and I helped myself out in the
Oh, you helped
same
yourself
token.
out
So
because yeah.
um, I could tell you OJ Howard was one that I strongly had considered keeping, but just looking once they bring in Gronk, and I like the Hurst move better because I see Hurst is going to be he's the tight end in Atlanta in a passing
Right.
offense.
Yep.
He did emerge at the end of the year, obviously, in a three tight end system in Baltimore. So I really weighed the two, and I'm like, well, I could maybe still get OJ Howard in the third or fourth round if I really wanted to. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he's going to slide. Um, the receivers, I think, were a no-brainer. If you look what I had left, I'd say the only other player, and again, you were talking about defense, is Devin White was someone I had considered keeping.
Okay.
Um, the linebacker out of Tampa. Irv Smith is a tight end I could have considered keeping as well. They're looking for big things out of him in
Yeah.
Minnesota, but I wanted to have a solid base. So this way, the first round of my draft can be completely offensive driven, and then the second round pick that I acquired in a trade, I can use for either a kicker or another offensive position.
Okay. Interesting.
So, I mean, I look at my team definitely, obviously, is quarterback weak. I think it's.
You think?
I love
I mean,
Haskins. Don't get me wrong. I do, but it's quarterback week.
he is the Washington Redskin.
Yeah. Um, but they're doing something to Washington too.
They're not.
I
They're
see good
really
things on
not.
the horizon for
Mm.
Haskins. My running back, if you look at my running back situation, I guess you would look at it as weak as of right now.
Well, yeah, but last year it was super strong. I mean, you had Nick Chubb, you had Ezekiel Elliott. Like that's a one-two punch that
Right.
anyone would really
And I had
want.
David
So,
Montgomery,
yeah,
which
and
I
you had
also
David
had traded
Montgomery.
away to acquire the third overall
Sure.
pick.
But right now
Um,
you did cut yourself in regards to
right. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. Look, I have the first and third overall pick.
yeah,
They're going to be running backs.
really?
Yeah. Um,
Sometimes I wonder.
yeah. No, I'm going defense on those. Chase Young will be the number
Yeah, I
one
kind of
overall
figured. I
pick.
figured that was the case.
Um, no.
And Tua?
Yeah, Tua. I don't know. Tua. Well, hey, we'll get to rookies later.
Yeah, we'll
I
get to
do want
rookies
to
later.
touch on
Sure.
Tua later. So, I mean, receiver as of right now would be the strength of my team, which
Yeah.
is always pretty much has.
Yeah.
But it's and here's one thing I like to do with my team is I think you'll notice it's a trend the way I do it. I keep my teams very young.
Hmm.
And that's something that I love about the keepers. I like getting the guys young and then letting them grow.
Sure.
I mean,
That
really,
makes
if you look
sense.
at my list, honestly, Elliott's probably the oldest guy.
Yeah, that's
I
about
mean,
right.
seriously, Elliott's probably the oldest guy in my list
It's interesting to see a lack of a Juju Smith-Schuster on your list.
because he got traded away.
Oh, you did? Oh my god. Figures. It seemed like
That's part of
85
the third
trades.
overall pick.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna
And
say
Chubb, I mean,
that's
that went
that's
for
the
the
one I
first
missed.
overall pick.
Right. I
So,
knew Chubb was one of the ones that got you paid, so to speak.
oh yeah, like Anthony's gonna be reaping the
Okay.
benefits if he keeps them, of course.
Yeah, if he does. I mean,
And we'll find that out
yeah.
later in this broadcast. So,
Yeah.
um, any final thoughts on my team?
Um, in regards to draft, it's looking pretty solid. I mean, you have talent in your wide receiver core that most people would kind of kill for. I mean, Calvin Ridley's going to put up ridiculous amounts of points. Um, AJ Brown had a great year last year, and I think he'll expand on that. Like he's just talented.
Yeah.
So I would not be too worried there. Obviously, you understand the hole in regards to your quarterback is a big
Mhm.
issue, but if you think about it, we only start one quarterback.
Right. You only start one
Right.
quarterback, and I know I can get the way our system is now set up, I am guaranteed to get a starting quarterback.
Sure. Yeah. Same. I'm same boat.
Um,
Maybe.
so
Um,
yeah,
but in regards to running backs, man, you really put yourself in a harsh position by trading
I
away.
did. And I even thought
I'm in the
about
same boat, but
with the Montgomery deal. I'm like, man, maybe I should just hold on to him.
yeah,
But there's a couple of these rookies I'm in love with.
sure. Yep.
Um, and I
I hear
think
you.
they're going to be just phenomenal. They might not prove out for the first year, but I think in the long haul, I think they're going to be,
They're gonna pay off in the end.
yeah.
Hey, you might be right on that. Again, rookie running backs are. I mean, sometimes you hit and sometimes you don't. Like, again, I go back 2 years ago with the McCaffrey Leonard Fournette situation,
Mhm.
and right now it's looking like McCaffrey's gonna pay off.
Looking.
Just saying, there's still time. I mean, who knows?
I mean,
Maybe
I
Fournette
remember my
comes
brother
back and
was like
oh, I know
in
he thought it
love with
was nuts,
Fournette, and
right? But I
um,
mean, it's still one of those things where you have five probably solid running back choices,
mhm.
and of those five, you got to figure only two will probably be like stars. I can't see all five of them going nuts their rookie year,
Right.
let alone throughout the whole thing. They won't have like all five won't have a productive like year or even a productive career for that matter. But if you can hit on the two,
Yeah.
man, that's amazing.
And I did want to say this real quick. I know this is very much geared towards our keepers and our league specifically, but in talking about these players, we're hoping that anyone who's not in our league watching this can get some general knowledge about someone to consider drafting for their league.
Yeah.
Like for example, obviously in a year-to-year league, Ezekiel Elliott's going to be what, top 5 pick?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Well, you also have to understand too, we're a 16 team league, which most people think that is an insane amount of people because it is, and it's a lot. So the value of someone, even like a Jalen Samuels or I'm trying to think of who the third down back is for like Washington.
well, they got what, Geis? They got they
Oh,
just
Geis was
they
hurt.
Peyton Barber. They
Yeah,
signed him
sure.
too.
So like even a Peyton Barber has utility in this league
Right.
that just makes it. Well, I
And
mean, yeah,
but I know we're gonna wrap me up here and we'll move on to the next one. I do want to say this because I just shared it with him. Guy, who you'll see later in this, actually shared with me a video, or it's not really video, it's a soundbite, about a minute soundbite from XM Radio's fantasy show. And he had actually called in to them about a question, and essentially they said in response that a 16 team scares them. And we were just talking about that
yeah,
because I shared it with him before. And look, here's the reason the 16 team scares a lot of people because it's harder, it's more difficult. It's it's showing it's building a team and holding a longevity. But it's also, think about the NFL. There's 32 teams.
sure.
I mean, if you cut that in half, there's only 16 NFL teams. I mean, think of how what each team would look like.
It's true. And again, from a standpoint of 16 team league, um, it you have to go deep. Like you
Right.
have to be willing to look at, you know, third and fourth receivers on a roster. You have to look at, you know, who is the third down utility back that puts up a lot of points. Who is um, a tight end who is a pass catcher out of the backfield, but not only that, but have that second or third tight end that puts up at least enough points for you to survive your bye weeks. And that's something that most people don't want to deal with. They would rather deal with a, 10-person league or an 8-person league where you have everything to choose from, which
Well, like Mike Williams,
neat.
I was all excited. You remember how
Yeah.
excited I was to draft Mike Williams. And I was scouting him 2 years out. I mean, I'm looking at these guys
Yeah.
when they're in college. That's
Sure.
what I like about our league is I'm trying to urge people watch the college football as well because that's where your future is.
Well, and I can tell you from a standpoint, if Guy was to have mentioned we also draft defensive linemen, linebackers, and defensive backs, it would have blown their mind. Like that is something that probably only less than 5% of all fantasy football leagues do.
Right.
So, I mean, from that standpoint, it just makes us a little bit more unique. So,
Oh, definitely, definitely.
but
And that's something Guy said that he
yeah,
does like that we are unique from everything. And the main thing is everyone has fun in our league, and that's the biggest thing. So
it's true.
we
It's
spent
true.
probably more time on my team than I wanted, and we kind of got
Well,
off base,
right.
and that'll probably happen a lot through the stream because that always happens. I think
Sure.
Jimmy and I spent one time 15 minutes talking about the John Elway draft. But so right now we're gonna wrap me up. We're gonna move on to number two. Face the camera. And next up, we got Tony Mize. His keepers are wide receiver Keenan Allen, running back Jordan Howard, defensive lineman Miles Garrett, wide receiver Paris Campbell from The Ohio State University,
My gosh.
linebacker Zach Cunningham, defensive back
Buddha Baker.
Buda Baker,
Or Buddha. Yeah, sorry.
running back Todd Gurley, tight end Hunter Henry, wide receiver Golden Tate, and quarterback Philip Rivers. And there's Tony. All right. Tony was handed a team that struggled last year,
Yeah.
and it was a team that actually a few years prior actually was in the playoffs. It
Mhm.
was a playoff team a few years
Yeah.
ago. It was a two-time winner of the Best of the Rest. No, I'm sorry, one-time winner. And it got old. Like some teams, like Anthony's team at one point was a league champion, been in playoffs every year, but they all get old eventually,
Mhm.
and so you got to rebuild. And that's kind of what he was given. And probably the most aggressive guy in the trading this year.
Oh, I will agree with that.
You
Like
know,
he has made move upon move to just better his roster, and the trade he made with me for Buda Baker, like again, he got a lot of value out of his fifth round pick that year or this year. Like I'm for next year. Like he got a lot of value in that trade to make a jump quickly
hmm
to become a contender this year.
Yep.
Um, some of his holes, like I mean, Philip Rivers is coming into Indy with a awesome cast. Like
Probably the best offensive line in football.
he's gonna stay upright, and that's probably the first time in Phillips' like last 10 years where he's had an offensive line that's gonna keep him upright. So if he has anything left in his tank, this is the year he's gonna show it and shine. So, um, but again, he's old. Like
Yeah.
I mean, one hit, and
Right.
but again, best
So,
offensive line he's had in a
right.
while.
I mean, obviously, quarterback is something he's going to have to address in the draft, which a lot of teams in our league are going to have. I mean,
Sure,
a lot of
yeah,
teams only have one quarterback.
yep.
Um,
Well, again, if you are fine with Philip Rivers being your starter for the season, you're fine. Like think of
right.
it this way: if you don't have a quarterback, a second quarterback, it's one game. You've lost one game. That's not the end of the world. You
Right.
could technically go that. Sorry, guys. You could technically go the route of just saying, you know what, that bye week, I'm just gonna lose, so I'm fine with that.
Yep. And
I
we've
mean,
had teams do that
yeah,
before.
exactly.
You know what? He's got pieces, and I think in a lot of ways, obviously, a lot of people don't know this, but this every year we keep 10, and then next season we're going to do kind of a rebuilding
Yeah.
season for everyone, and we're just going to keep 5 next year. So in a lot of ways, he's more or less building. He knew what he had. He knew he
Right.
didn't have a contender, even with all the moves he made. He was going to be competitive, but not necessarily go into the upper echelon yet. So he's more or less looking towards
2021.
2021.
Yeah, and he hasn't done much to sacrifice his future.
No,
He's and again, I think he's got a pretty solid core. I mean, Todd Gurley's still going to put up a heck of a lot of points. Um, you know,
if healthy, Hunter Henry is a top tight end.
sure, yeah, absolutely. And again, his wide receivers are starting to get old in the tooth or long in the tooth. Like Golden Tate's starting to get up in age. I mean,
Allen too,
and
but
Keenan
Allen's
Allen.
been staying healthy. Allen's obviously his best receiver. Allen has been staying healthy the last few years.
Yeah,
Um, did you know actually Jordan Howard? I just saw the stat. Since 2000, I think it was 15 or 16, however, I can't remember exactly how it said it. He's actually like in the top 5 in rushing.
really.
Yes, I didn't
I
realize.
didn't realize
I
that.
saw it
That's
today. I was like,
crazy.
holy cow.
I, I,
Um,
wow. I don't know if that says what that technically says about running backs and their need to rush the ball. If Jordan Howard
he
is
gets a
top
lot of
five
carries
after
too.
five
He
seasons.
was getting a lot of carries.
Yeah, but
And
Yeah,
maybe that was a joke and I read that wrong. I didn't really research it too much, which
that's.
maybe I should have.
Well, no, I
But
mean,
and then I started thinking like, well, I know he's had a few thousand-yard seasons and
yeah,
he's gotten a lot of carries. So if you take out 2000, if you put out 2015, it made sense.
yeah. I mean, it's just again, I don't think of Jordan Howard as a premier back right now.
No,
But I mean, I think that happens a lot to a lot of quarterbacks, wide receivers, and things. You tend to overlook a lot because they just don't seem like that premier.
but and of course I kept Matt Breida, which is going to be his
Yeah,
backfield
same.
make.
Yeah,
But they're both going to get carries.
yeah,
Howard's going to get the ball. I mean, it's
yeah.
not like he's just going to be. He may even be the starter. I'm not sure.
Sure.
They haven't really done their depth chart yet. But the Paris Campbell, obviously, it's a link to Philip Rivers, so he can
Yep.
get a bonus there if he plays. And he's young. That's definitely his youngest
Yep.
player. He did have some injury concerns last year, but he should be healed up from that by now.
Right.
Um, and then defense, he's making himself solid in defense. Cunningham, I think, was top 5 for sure, if not top 3. Linebacker for fantasy value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baker's in the top 5, and Miles Garrett obviously is an outstanding football player.
Mm,
As a Steeler fan, I can understand maybe why
mm,
you have your
well, not even just that. Like, and this is the same thing with like Khalil Mack and like some of the big names. The big names they look good on paper, but when it comes to fantasy points wise, they don't always put up the best points
right.
because they're getting double and triple teams. So,
True, true.
um, I still think Miles Garrett is incredibly scary on the football field. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's a bad football player. I'm just saying from a fantasy value standpoint, obviously his suspension hurt him last year,
Hmm.
but even before that, he had some good games, but they weren't like again him getting Buda Baker. There's way more points in Buda Baker than there was in Miles Garrett last
Right.
year. I mean, he had 1,400 points with Buda Baker in our stats and the way that we do it, whereas um, I want to say Garrett was in the like 600 by the end of week 9 when he was suspended. So week 9,
Maybe.
I think so. Yeah. So oh no, it might have been no, it was I think it was later than that even.
Yeah. It was later than that. But to Tony and just everyone out there watching this, just understand also with his lineup, he has 3 picks in the first round.
Does it really?
Yep, he's got
Yeah.
the 12th overall pick, he's got the 15th pick, and he's got the 16th overall pick.
Okay. So
So
they're a
he's
little later,
got
but still, he's got 3 value spots where he can make improvements quickly.
right.
Okay. So that's going to be quite interesting for next year too when he's got to choose his 5 because he's got a lot of old players here, which I think he's going to feel confident letting go after
Hmm.
this year. But he's definitely put himself into a serviceable position for this year, even. So
Um, I'm gonna guess off this list, the only two I'm gonna, I guess I could, I don't want to say 3 because there's one. It's gonna depend. I say Keenan Allen will be a definite keeper for 2021.
okay,
Unless he's, I mean, if he stays healthy. If he
sure,
gets hurt, it's
okay.
different. I'm going
Well,
based on
okay.
health.
Let's who's your other one?
If he stays healthy, I would say Hunter Henry. If he stays healthy. Now, if he doesn't, then if he gets hurt, I would move on.
Okay.
And then Gurley's the one I'm kind of like on the fringe with.
See, Gurley's the one where I'm like, he's a definite keeper because running backs are such a premium in every league. Like,
But
I know, I
didn't he have
understand.
a 1-year deal with Atlanta? Was it
Look, Todd Gurley's going to go somewhere and,
right?
and
You're right.
play. He may not be with the Rams anymore, but in all honesty, he's still going to play and put up points. So
I mean, I could definitely see Campbell being a keeper as well if he
yeah,
produces. If he
yeah,
produces.
if he produces,
Everything I'm saying is obviously
sure,
if.
yeah. I mean,
So,
it's all tentative.
and then depending how his, I definitely I could see 3 of these first round picks he has, depending who
Oh,
he
I would,
drafts, being his keepers as well.
and again, if he's got 3 first round picks, and the way I look at the first round this year, especially if we're cutting it down to 5 next year, is one of those first round picks going to come with you? If not, I mean, sure you want to win this year, but why not trade that pick for
Yeah.
future use?
So the short of this, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree with me or not. Tony's team is better today than it was at the end of
Oh,
2019.
yeah, absolutely. He's definitely made moves to put himself in a better position, and they've been
And
solid moves too.
yeah, and also the benefit to having teams in our league, even if they're not the star teams, as long as they're still competitive, it
Yeah.
doesn't make it so you walk in, oh, there's a win.
Yep.
You can't walk into his team and say there's a win.
No.
And there's a few more teams that we'll talk through later, I think, that you're going to agree with me that used to be there's a win
Yeah,
that are definitely not going to be
sure,
wins anymore. So,
that's true.
any final thoughts on Tony's team?
No, solid moves on the off season.
All right,
We'll
Tony,
see
good
what goes
job.
on here in the
Thumbs
draft.
up.
Yeah.
All right. All right, we're going to move on to number 3 here. All right, there we go. Next up, we have Raymond Bailey. There's wide receiver Julio Jones, quarterback Ryan Tannehill, running back Philip Lindsay, wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown, quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger, wide receiver Julian Edelman, tight end, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Eric
Eric Ebron.
Ebron,
Yeah.
wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., the Ravens defense, and running back Nick Chubb. And then there's a picture of the GM for Raymond's team, Brady Bailey. So, here we go. So, you want to talk about Eric Miller 2.0?
Yeah. So you, which is weird because you
A lot of these
traded.
guys were mine. I've traded them over the
Well,
last few
and
years.
not only that, you traded him in your division. Like from
Huh?
from you traded. He's in your division.
No, he's not.
Oh, I thought he
Oh,
was.
no, no, no.
I thought we were going divisional.
Oh, no. No,
Oh,
these are
good. Okay,
based how
never
they were
mind.
turned in. No, he's
Not as
not in my
crazy as I
division.
thought you were.
No.
Because trading in division, I was just like,
Oh.
okay.
No, I
all right,
learned. I mean, a long time ago, I heard the saying, "You don't trade." Why would you want
yeah.
to see
Why
the
would you
guy
trade in your
twice a
division?
year?
Sorry, I thought he was
No,
actually in
no.
your division.
I mean, I have
Um,
made trades in my division, but it's very rare, and it's not something that I think
right,
will come back and bite me in the end.
right. In regards to what you gave him, it definitely was improvements on his team, and it's not like his team was terrible last year, but like Big Ben went down for him last year.
Mhm.
I mean, now granted, he had Ryan Tannehill have a season that no one expected to have. Like
Right.
I did not expect Ryan Tannehill to
And I didn't trade him Ryan Tannehill. He drafted him, but Ryan Tannehill had been my quarterback since the first year of this thing. So,
I know, and you were waiting for him to,
yep.
produce for Miami.
So I
It
guess
just
I just
never
have to let him
happened.
go for him to produce.
Yep. So I mean, you look at his roster, and he definitely has made some major improvements over the offseason, which
Yep.
is good.
And he's
Um,
got youth,
he does. He does.
a mixture of youth and I'm
Yeah,
like,
because Julio is no longer a youthful wide
no, he's in
receiver.
his 30s.
Right. So he's got some youth, but he's also got some mid-range talent here. The thing that kind of stands out here is Odell finally going to get his head back on his shoulders? I mean, he's a big name, but man, last year was just abysmal for any Odell Beckham owner. Like it just
Right.
was
Oh yeah.
not good.
But I think you could say the same for pretty much, with the exception of Nick Chubb, pretty much any of the Browns
Oh
players
yeah,
who
they,
were
they were an extreme
hyped to
letdown,
be
which
just
made me happy, but
right.
they definitely were an extreme
But,
letdown.
and like one thing, it was funny because Dennis and Nick and myself actually we were at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony last year,
Yeah.
which I go to every year. And Nick's been the last few years with me, and then Dennis went last year, which we're all going again this year. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Um, and they had this dinner the day after the ceremony.
Hmm.
It's like a luncheon where they bring the players and they do. It's not on TV. It's actually like a more intimate setting. And we were sitting at a table and we're just talking to these guys, and there was like 4 Browns fans, whatever, which is fine. I don't have a problem with Browns
Yeah.
fans. I don't have a problem with any fans. I
No.
mean, I don't like Patriots fans, but I could sit and have dinner with them and talk football. Um, but anyway, so I just made a. We're talking about their division, and I just made a. We were talking about. The Steelers were kind of, they're still going to be competitive, but yes, they were kind of coming
Well,
maybe.
they lost Brown and
Well,
Le'Veon
we were also
Bell.
talking how Roethlisberger is getting
Yeah.
older.
Sure.
We looked at, Cincinnati was going to be a walkthrough team. I mean,
Yeah.
then I made the statement like, well, Baltimore is going to be strong, and this guy flipped out. He seriously flipped out. Like he was so mad that I said that Baltimore was going to be good, and he's like, I can't believe you said that. How can you say that? Blah blah blah. And, gee, how did Baltimore do last year?
Baltimore did very well. I will say this. There are some things about Baltimore that I'm still not sold on. I think Lamar Jackson did a great job. I think he'll be fine as long as he can keep the speed. If he ends up getting like an RG3 injury, this is a whole nother story.
Oh,
Because that's
definitely.
I mean, the years after are going to slow him down after that. Like, I look at RG3's rookie year, and that guy was just lights out, insanely good to watch.
But they're putting stuff around him.
Correct.
The only thing that
Correct.
the biggest loss for the Ravens, I mean, they've added to the defense. Defense is stronger. Um, is going to be the loss of Yanda, the guard, who's been what a staple there for what over a decade at
Yeah,
least. And he's interior lineman. They never had to worry about the left guard spot, which was obviously bust holes open for running backs. I mean, he's what I want to say he was there for Jamal Lewis, definitely. Ray Rice. He might
definitely
not
Ray
have been there for
Rice.
Lewis,
I don't think Lewis. Lewis was
but definitely Ray
2000, like
Rice.
early
Definitely,
2000s.
obviously Ingram.
Yeah.
I know I'm missing one here.
Uh, are you? I think you're right on track so far. Because Ray
Seems like
Rice
there was
had
another.
a
Seems like there was another
long
running back
stint
that was
there.
did solid for him. But anyways, the whole point is they lost a key piece to that offensive line.
Yeah.
But after
You're
that,
right.
but his speed might make up the difference, like you said, as long as he doesn't get hurt.
As long as he doesn't get nicked. Like again, if his like the reason why he is so dangerous is that ability to just turn. I mean, he just makes people look silly out there.
And I want to say this, and correct me if I'm wrong on this. I remember when he came out of college. I remember saying this guy is going to get blown up.
I thought so.
And here we are. We're
Yeah.
By the way, someone does have Lamar Jackson in our league. We maybe should just wait for this.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
finish it. I mean,
No,
I
that's
started
true.
a point, so let me finish it. When he came out, I remember saying this guy's going to get broken in half.
Yeah, same.
He's gotten bigger.
Well, not only that,
He's bulked up.
you have to hit him in order to hurt him.
Right, but he's bulked up. What I'm saying
Sure,
is,
but nobody can hit him.
but RG3 never bulked up. RG never
Yeah,
got bigger.
that's true. His
So,
ankles were still always really, really tiny.
but we'll come back to Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
later. So,
Um,
um,
but in regards to the rest of his keepers, they're pretty darn solid. Like again, as long as Cleveland can put it together this year, Nick Chubb and Odell should have some major, major gains this year.
I
Not that
like
Nick
the
Chubb had a
Ebron.
bad
I
one,
like
but
the Ebron move to. That's. I
to
mean, that's gonna
Pittsburgh,
help. And that's
yeah,
gonna help. He's got Big Ben.
yep.
That's gonna help him. That's a good move. And
Well,
that was he had Ebron obviously last year. He didn't acquire him, so that was like almost like a kind of a bonus, I guess.
sure,
Him going to and his favorite team is Pittsburgh Steelers as well.
yeah. So the interesting thing for Ray is going to be at the end of the season cutting down to 5,
Yeah.
because right now he's got over 5 that he would keep next year.
Well, let's talk about the. You know what? Why don't we do that too? We'll talk about the five just based on what they got right
Well,
now.
if you were going off his roster right now, he'd keep Julio, he'd keep uh, Brown,
Chubb,
Marquise Brown, he'd keep Chubb, he'd
Beckham,
probably keep which one?
Beckham.
Beckham. Yep. And then you're looking at one spot left to fill, and you could technically throw Ryan Tannehill in there as that 5th person.
Yeah, because the only of all his
I mean,
players, the two of the 10. Well, I mean, obviously
I guess it
Ravens
depends.
defense is different. I look at Lindsey isn't going to have a big year because they brought in Melvin Gordon.
Right.
So there's a huge split
It's going
right
to take
there.
some carries away from him.
And then obviously Edelman, number one with Edelman, you have a new quarterback.
Yeah.
He's getting older.
Yep.
I mean,
Unless he gets traded midseason down to Tampa.
who knows? By the end of this broadcast, we might be saying breaking news: Julian Edelman is
No
going to
kidding.
Tampa.
No, but again, his last and who knows? Maybe Eric Ebron with Ben. Maybe that changes everything for Eric Ebron, and now all of a sudden
Right.
he's back to being a premier tight end again, and maybe that's his 5th one. But again,
I don't
he's gonna
think you
have to
keep
make
Big Ben
choices.
next year,
No,
even if he
he's
sticks
old.
around, based on age.
I love the guy, but he's old. It's time to move
You'll
on.
still be able to get him in the draft.
Yep,
So,
yep.
and to his benefit, because he
He
made
would
the
make
deal
the
with
cut.
me with, he not only got Nick Chubb, what he sacrifices, he sacrificed this year's first overall pick.
Yep,
He got Nick Chubb in
yep,
return, and he got a first round pick in next year's
yep.
draft. So he's got two first round picks next year.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah. So, and when we're talking about earlier, always one of those teams, oh, there's a win. This isn't a win anymore.
No, it was last year for the like at first, and it's weird because you looked at some of the rosters and you're like, oh, this is a win, this is a win, this is a win. You're right. This one has made improvements again in this
And
offseason.
I can't wait till we get to the divisional talk when we're done with all these to see
Oh
our
yeah.
thoughts on this one. This is going to be fun. So, with that, any final thoughts on Raymond and Brady's team?
Not so much in this case. Good moves on the offseason, and it's
For
gonna be an
draft,
interesting
they
year
definitely probably got to add.
Oh, draft wise, he's gonna look at probably running back, because he's got it. I mean, he needs to actually draft a defensive, like actual defensive players.
Right, and
I
you're
don't
going
know
to see
how
that.
early
That's a
he's gonna
theme.
do that, but
That's gonna be a theme. I think Definitely another running back for sure.
Yep.
And then tight end. Receiver, he can actually kind of wait.
Eh,
He's
yeah. I mean, the problem is like we start three wide receivers. Well,
right,
two, maybe three if you're
right,
doing.
right.
So I mean, having that like again, Julio Jones is great. Odell is a good one to have. Julian Edelman is a good third one, and Marquise Brown is a good one. So yeah, maybe not. Maybe that is.
I guess I'm saying
Yeah,
he doesn't have
I
to
forgot
rush a
there's.
wide receiver. I mean, he still have to need a draft receiver. I'm saying not in his. I wouldn't draft one out, or maybe once you hit the fourth round, maybe start looking at a receiver.
Yeah, again, he basically turned his number one overall draft pick into Nick Chubb.
Right.
So
And got another
and got
another
another first
number
rounder
round pick
next year.
for next year,
Right.
in probably a bigger draft than this year.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely. If we're
I
cutting down
mean,
to five,
no one
so
ever said I made smart moves, but
no, no, but it's
um,
fine. It was a move.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, we're gonna move on to number 4.
Okay.
Turn camera. There's Brady, and here we go. All right, we got Dennis Byam, running back Mark Ingram, wide receiver Ted Ginn, linebacker Kyle Vanoy, quarterback Josh Allen, running back Tevin Coleman, wide receiver Amari Cooper, running back Leonard Fournette, tight end Noah Fant, wide receiver Chris Godwin, sorry, and quarterback Drew Brees. And there's Dennis. All right. Well, my counterpart here stepped away for a brief moment, so I'll just kind of talk about Dennis's team here. Let's talk about the obvious factors. He's got still a top quarterback in the league. He's got a solid running game in Ingram and Fournette. I don't think he's got too many concerns there. Wide receiver, he's got. I mean, this is a solid based team. With a young tight end and Noah Fant, who I think that's one of my big ones for next year. I think Denver is going to be a huge team next year if Locke produces, but we'll get to that later. But I like this team as a whole. He did trade away his first round pick this year, which he also is the benefactor of a first round pick in next year's draft, along with, so he's going to have 2 first round picks next year and 2 third round picks next year.
It's a good place to be.
That's definitely a good place to be. I mean, I think you and
Yep.
I talked about it. Next year's third round is probably equivalent to this year's first.
Mm,
No?
no, I would even go fourth. I mean, if you think about it, you take a look at this team, and it's a solid team. And let's say he keeps Drew Brees, he keeps
Godwin for sure.
Godwin, he keeps Amari Cooper,
Yeah, oh yeah.
he keeps.
I almost look at, you might keep 2 quarterbacks.
So here's the problem: there's a lot of talent just off his team that's dropping off.
Yeah.
And so again, with 16 teams, you're going to have at least 32 or more that are just like premium talent.
Yep.
And
No,
so
if you look at his 5 for next year, um, and with Breeze is an interesting case, obviously because of age, so that could
yeah,
come into
yeah,
play for that too.
that's true. I
But
still
I
think
mean,
he's.
Godwin is definitely a keeper
Oh
for him.
yeah,
Fournette should be a keeper. Ingram is the one that I don't know. I think he'll be a keeper, but he's getting older and
he is.
situationally
And
that could
again,
change.
it depends on what Fournette we get. Like,
Right.
I mean, he,
Well,
after
Ingram
his
too.
rookie
I was
year,
talking Ingram too.
it's been downhill for him.
Right.
So
I'm surprised he's still a Jaguar.
I thought he would have been gone
Yeah.
last year.
I actually, when they were making moves, I would have
Yep,
thought that would
I
have
was
been one of the
expecting
first
him to
ones.
go.
I love Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is going to be a great player in
I
this
do too,
league. I mean,
actually.
he is a great
Yeah.
player. I think he's going to be even better.
It's surprising to say that a Buffalo quarterback's going to be really good, but
And I think Fant's going to have a lot of success in Denver.
um, I think Denver is going to be better. But again, you got to face Kansas City twice. You got to face. Man, I'm not sold on Oakland, and I'm not sold on San Diego too much.
It's LA.
Or LA. Yeah, sorry, I'm old. Well, still,
Don't worry, I still say San Diego myself.
I'm not sold on either of those two teams putting it together this year. So I mean, they could be second in division just by default, but still,
Yeah.
like, I I don't think that they're a contender. I still think that they're a tier below from a standpoint of actually being a Super Bowl contender.
I think they could sniff the playoffs.
Oh, I think they could sniff the playoffs. I think they could
Oh
actually
no, I'm not
sneak in
saying
with
no,
the
I'm not
new
saying
new
Denver's going to take
format.
it all. What I'm saying is if Locke produces with everything I mean, they're putting their stock in this kid. I
Yeah,
mean, you got Jerry Judy.
sure.
Obviously, he's got what Cortland Sutton.
Yep.
They got Lindsey. They signed Melvin Gordon, Noah Fant. They're putting
Yeah,
everything
he's got
into it.
weapons.
The defense
Yeah.
might be is skeptical, but the defense they haven't because they lost Harris, their corner. I can't think of any. What was the big move they made on defense? Was there?
I think
I'm
there was
sure I'm
one, but I
forgetting
can't.
something.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought they were going to be more offense
I
heavy
thought
this
they
year,
put
anyways.
everything
But
into their offense.
they had a solid defense last year. It's not
Right.
like they had to make a lot of changes to that defense.
But I thought they've lost because I know they lost Chris Harris, and that
Yeah,
was like
they
a
lost
big
Chris
deal that they
Harris, but
lost him.
who's their? I thought they had who's their other corner? Who's the chain stealer?
Well, they had Roby, but he got sent to
Not Roby.
Houston.
No, who's the guy that ripped off the chain last year? It was last year, wasn't it? I think so.
Oh, they got Justin Simmons, don't they?
They do
The
have Justin
safety.
Simmons
Okay,
at
so
safety.
there's probably their
No,
best
who's?
defensive player.
Oh, why can't I think of his name?
Little spoiler alert: no one kept the Denver defense in this,
Yeah.
so.
So obviously it wasn't as strong as we were hoping. Akeem Talib, chain stealer.
But
Oh
didn't he
wait.
get moved?
Oh, he went to Miami, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's right. So he left too. Where did he?
We're spending
Oh, sorry
too
guys.
much time. Like
Yeah.
I said, we're
Moving
going
on.
to get off base here a little bit.
Moving on.
Moving on. So, as a whole, this is a team that I think can compete for the playoffs.
Uh,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and actually last year in because I'm in the same division as Dennis, along with Efren and Jimmy, and all three of us had the same record at the end. I only won the division because I had more in-division wins, but all three of us had the same exact regular season record. Efren was actually the strongest of the three of
Yeah.
us, and so Dennis didn't make the playoffs because Efren trumped him.
Yep. That last
Um,
week was insane for our.
but Dennis could have won the division if he would have beat me the last week. He won the division.
Right.
And then I was the winner of that game between him and I in week 14, right? Or no, week 13.
13.
The winner won the division, and the loser missed the playoffs
Yep.
because Efren was guaranteed in,
It was your first playoff game.
right? And which I did. Yep, I did play Efren, but again, I don't see him. He's not worse off. He's not really necessarily better off. He's in the position where he has a shot at the playoffs again. I guess you could say he has a shot at the division too, because I mean, he could. I mean, I could argue my team got better or got worse actually. Right now, not counting the draft. This is all based off keepers alone.
So from an
My
off,
team got
yeah.
worse actually, if you go based off just keepers.
Well, yeah, but you had no draft pick going into this offseason, so
Right.
you had to kind of
Right.
reassess and reevaluate your talent, so to speak. In regards to Dennis's situation here, you know, he's at a point with his keepers where he could lose a wide receiver and be fine. Like if a wide receiver gets hurt, he's fine. If a quarterback gets hurt, he's fine. Like that's a great place to be at.
Hmm.
I mean, his running backs, he's got two good ones with Mark Ingram and Leonard Fournette and Tevin Coleman. Like he's got service there for what he needs. So really, it's a matter of, you know, what is he going to do with his picks in this draft to fill out the rest of his roster?
Now he did
His core is
lose.
solid.
He did lose his first round pick in the acquiring of. Um, well, let me go. There's been so many trades this year.
I know.
I get some of them mixed up. Where was his? It was one of the. Okay, so okay, he didn't get a player. He just got picked. So he lost his um, first round pick, but he gained a third round in this year. So he's gonna have two third round picks.
And you got picks for next year.
but then he got a
Yeah.
first and a third for next year.
Yep.
That's where the money is, of course.
Genius.
So, like I said, um, I mean, you look at what he would have had, and where he would be drafting at 7,
Hmm.
more likely you're looking at a wide receiver, which is not something he's like, oh my God, I have to get this wide receiver,
Yeah.
which obviously would help.
No.
I mean, that thing would hurt you, but he would rather, get that first round pick next year and have a shot at adding the running back.
Right. He is sacrificing a little now to mortgage for the future, which there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
smart play, and he's gonna have a competitive team this year.
And he's always got his wife's mac and cheese to fall back on.
Nice.
I
Nice
mean, you
mac and
can't ask for
cheese.
anything
Nope.
better than that.
Yeah.
So great mac and cheese. Any final thoughts on Dennis's team?
No, it's gonna be interesting to see what he does in the draft. I think we'll have more to talk about him
Yeah.
once the draft happens, because if he's drafting defense and or not or yeah defensive players and kickers early, we may have a little more to talk about than
Hmm.
what we have right now with him.
All right, we're gonna move on.
Hmm.
Oh, I overshot it. There we go. All right. So next up we have Christina. We have quarterback Carson Wentz, running back James White, kicker Greg Zerline, running back Le'Veon Bell, wide receiver Robert Woods, the Chiefs defense, running back Peyton Barber, quarterback Nick Foles, wide receiver Eugene T.Y. Hilton, and running back Melvin Gordon. And there again we have Christina. So turn to us. She had a struggle last year, but we're going back to the last few years prior to this was a playoff team,
Hmm.
best of the rest team, best of the rest winner. Um, the year before, 2018 season, had a little bit of a drop off, which I didn't expect, but I understand Gordon missed half the year.
At least first 4 weeks, and then his first couple weeks were pretty sad coming
Yeah.
back. Yep.
Well, not only that, he had Austin Eckler, so it wasn't
Yep.
like
Yeah, it's not like when he came back he was getting all the carries
right.
by any means. Yeah.
And then you look at Wentz got hurt during the season.
Yep.
Foles
Hmm.
got hurt. What, game 1, game 2? It was out the gate that
Yeah,
he
it was
got
right off the
hurt.
gate.
Um,
And then Le'Veon Bell did not have a Le'Veon Bell season because he sat out the year in Pittsburgh. So
right. And then Robert Woods, he had a big year the year prior,
yeah, but
but then last year the Rams offense as a whole,
took a
it
step
it
back.
fell.
Jared Goff regressed last year. So
So, um,
yeah, look,
T.Y. Hilton got hurt.
Christina's team is the scariest on paper that we've seen so far.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of star power on the roster. Now, the sad thing is that those stars didn't produce last year.
Right.
So this is one where it kind of baffles you a little bit, but in all honesty, for next year, it's a scary team to play against. That's
Oh,
a
it's
solid base.
even though she, like I said, she didn't have a solid year, she was still a competitive team to
Oh
play.
yeah.
It wasn't like you walked in and it was, there's a win.
Well, no, but she picked up Le'Veon Bell midseason, if I'm not mistaken, last year,
Yep,
right?
that was now she
Against
gave
the
up.
trade with
She
Jimmy.
doesn't have a first round pick because of that.
Right, she traded Jimmy then.
But that was, I mean, what if Le'Veon Bell's in our draft?
Oh yeah,
He's
he's
the
the
number
first.
one
Yeah,
overall pick,
well,
so
or at least
at least top
top
3.
five. Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't a bad move. I'm not saying that at all, but it's just one of those things where, again, if this was 2018 and you had a roster with Le'Veon Bell and Melvin Gordon as your two running backs, you might as well just polish a spot for your trophy.
Plus T.Y. Hilton
Yeah, I'm not even going on to the rest of the rest of the lineup. I'm
and
just saying
Melvin Gordon.
those two running backs would carry your team to a championship that year. But
Melvin Gordon has got a lot. He's going to be
yeah,
ready to go. I mean,
oh
he's
yeah,
especially you figure those 2 games against the Chargers.
oh he's gonna play mean. He's gonna play very mean against that team.
And we were just talking about Denver. They've put a lot of stock on their
Yeah.
offense. So
Well, I think Melvin Gordon is going to have a good season.
oh yeah,
So, and again, I look at this roster with Christina, and this is a scary team for this year starting out. Now, we'll see what happens through the draft and what she puts into other places. And again, as long as everyone can stay healthy and you see Le'Veon return back to full form that like he was in Pittsburgh, and you see Melvin Gordon put back what he was doing in San Diego prior to last year, which I think he will. Like of the two, I feel more confident with Melvin Gordon this year than I do Le'Veon Bell. And that's not saying a ton. Like I'm not trying to downplay Le'Veon Bell. I just feel like Melvin Gordon, like that's a situation where he's going into where he's got a chance to put some really good points up on the board.
Um, I look and obviously, she's got one of the top kickers as far as
Yeah.
I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised she kept the kicker myself. I really thought she was gonna keep T.J. Watt, which it was so funny because I had sent him the list yesterday so he could kind of prepare himself for this discussion, but he apparently didn't catch that until once we started transmitting this broadcast. Also, he kind of looked at me, showed me. I'm like, "Yep, he wasn't kept."
I
So, so
yeah.
someone's excited about T.J. Watt, and we'll
So
touch on that later. We'll touch on that later because
so and again with our league, believe it or not, the kicker choice, Greg Zerline's not a bad choice here
no,
because the
I'm
way
not
we
saying
do our
that at
kicker
all.
points, again, way different than other leagues. When our kickers are putting up over 100 points, like that.
Yep.
So keeping Greg Zerline was not a bad move. It's just one of those things where I'm just looking at T.J. Watt going, "Ooh, that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points that just dropped off someone's roster." And obviously that had to have been one of her tough choices to
Yep.
make was
And
TJ.
and
So
I understand why she didn't keep him,
yeah,
but Fitzgerald's another one I actually had thought about that she would have considered
Larry, yeah,
keeping. But yeah, you look at this. She's got a top kicker. She doesn't have to worry about kicker really until she can just get her late in the draft, get the second kicker.
yeah,
Kickers, and the way our drafts go, which is most fantasy drafts, there's certain positions like team defense, kicker are two specific ones where people kind of wait, and then once it's just one person takes them, then there's the run on that position.
yeah. I have a different philosophy on those two positions.
Oh,
I sometimes won't draft them, and I'll just pick them up as one of my first pickups. I mean, if you take one of the top level ones, cool. Like, and again, you pretty much have to sacrifice to do that because the waterfall starts after they
hmm
do that. But there tends to hit almost like a plateau where every kicker at that point is the exact same. It's just the name's different on it, and it may be 10 points difference between, or like 1 or 2 points in most leagues, difference between what they do and what others do. So at that point, why waste a draft pick when you could take something that might be a little more
Here was a kicker I actually
stable?
had a couple years ago, Carlos Santos, when he was with Kansas City,
Hmm.
and he was like a top three kicker in the league, and then like next year he was like done.
Yep. I had that same
So a lot of
issue.
good point what you just said.
Yeah, I had that same issue. I think was it Graham Gano last year where he was the number
Forever
one
he's been
kicker,
like
and then all of a
solid,
sudden
and
he
then
was
he
just
just
cut. Yeah, I mean,
tanked right off the face of the earth.
so with kickers and defense, and it depends. Like again, if there is a value spot or it's right before that next level drop off of points, if there's something there at the value for that pick, I'll take it. But for the most part, kickers and defense, I won't even draft.
Yeah.
So, or they'll be my last two picks for that
So you
matter.
figure right now if you're her, you don't have a first round pick. So your second round pick, what are you rushing?
If I'm looking at her team and I'm looking for something second round, I would probably. I mean, if you're going to go offensive, I would probably look
Receiver.
at wide receiver, which is good. I mean, there's a lot of
De-
talent second round.
depending what tight end is there, because obviously she
Oh,
doesn't have
she
a
doesn't have
tight
a tight
end.
end too yet. I mean, if
Um,
that's what she's going for skill positions, those would be her two.
I probably would go receiver because this is going to be one of the biggest receiver drafts we've ever had, and I'm just talking rookies
Oh, I
alone. I'm
know.
not talking about anyone that wasn't kept.
Yeah, there is a lot of points to be gained by receivers. There's a ton of wide receivers. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of value out there to pick from. So, and again, I guess it depends. Like, if there is a premier tight end that she feels confident taking at that point, okay, do it. But I mean, you'd have to make a pretty big
Yeah, you know what?
justification
She's
for the
top of
points.
the she's top of the second
I
round.
think so.
So
She's got early picks.
yeah, yeah,
She did
she's
not have
always I
a.
think the third pick overall.
I was gonna say I know she was in the bottom half of the league, and
Where'd my sheet go? I got probably got so many papers I don't.
but again, this is a team that made moves in this offseason that have put her into a better position, or people got hurt last year that you just didn't expect to be hurt. So
No, but like we said, this is definitely not a
yeah, it's not a
this is
cakewalk.
not your normal looking team that finished third in the league.
Nope.
Third from the bottom is what I mean in the league.
Yep.
So yeah, she's got the third overall pick in the second round. So I mean, as long as they weren't traded or whatever, she always has a third overall pick. The way our draft system is set up, it's not a snake. It's a how you finished um,
Yeah,
is
we
where you
went away
pick.
from the
So
snake this past year, and or no, this is the first year we're technically doing it, isn't it?
no, No, we
We
did it
did it
last
last
year.
year?
Last year was the first year.
Okay. I
Last year
knew
was
it
the first
was
year.
reasonably
No, it
recent.
might have been 2 years ago.
No, it wasn't 2 years
Okay, then
ago.
it
I
was
know it
last year.
wasn't
Then
two
all right, it
years
was
ago.
last year definitely.
So, and it was a good move for keeping 10 keepers.
Right,
Like the
and
10 keeper roster.
that one, like like actually was, I mean, it was brought up by other people, and Nick Ritz actually who just won his second championship, or no, he had just won his first championship. So he, or no, anyways, he had just won the championship, and he was actually the one that was kind of pushing, like
Mm,
saying, hey, I'm the one that has the most to lose in this
yeah.
because in a snake draft he's got the 16th pick, but then he turns around he's got the 17th pick.
Hmm.
So it's like I'm the one that got the most to lose in this, and I think it's a good thing for
Yeah.
everyone. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that was a change we made. And any final thoughts on Christina?
No, she's gonna have a better year this year.
Yeah,
I mean, she's
as long as everyone
taken
stays
big steps
healthy,
forward.
and I definitely agree. I think Gordon is gonna actually produce the way he would have last year, if not more.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna move on to our next person. Again, and was this number three? Is this number six?
Yep.
Nick Ritz, league champion. Wide receiver, Cortland Sutton. Running back, Kareem Hunt. Quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Wide receiver, Tyler Boyd. Running back, Darius Geis. Wide receiver, Kenny Galladay. Running back, Devin Singletary. Wide receiver, Adam Thielen. Tight end, Mark Andrews. Quarterback, Matthew Stafford. And there's Nick with Andre Reed at the Hall of Fame with me a couple of years ago.
Nice.
All right, well, three-time world's champion in a row, consecutive. Um, he's made moves that he got rid of. I mean, he got rid of Joe Mixon.
Yep.
Who else has he traded away? He's also done, like, as always. He's not afraid of making moves off a team that wins it all. And he'll
Yeah.
get rid of key
He's
players.
not sold on any of his team. In all honesty, so far this is the weakest set of keepers we've had.
I agree
It,
because you
it
figure Kareem
is.
Hunt,
I like Kareem Hunt, but I mean he's got Nick Chubb in the backfield with him, which that hurts his
right?
stock. You have Darius Geis who can't stay on the field.
Hmm.
You have Matt
Singletary's.
Stafford and Kirk Cousins, which are your epitome of average quarterbacks. Nope, they're
I
average.
wouldn't call Stafford average.
He's average. He's absolutely average. He's lucky to be
I like
average.
the Andrews acquisition.
You like what?
The Mark Andrews. He traded for Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Uh,
like the Sutton. I like
yeah.
Sutton a lot.
I do too.
Boyd could really get and Boyd's been doing well. I think with Burrows, who knows, he might get a boost
I,
out of that.
yeah. I mean, again, looking at his roster, I don't know how he does it. Like, and again, I looked at his final roster of last year, and again, I don't know how he does it. It's smoke and mirrors. He just somehow put up more points than the other person, and that other person just had a bad game. Like, it just
He won
doesn't
the
make sense.
championship. He won the
Yeah.
overall championship, beat Ross Carlson by 60 overall points, in a week where both of them had below averages. Ross
Yeah.
Carlson's quarterback was Russell Wilson, had a below average game for Russell Wilson. I mean, he did like half the points of what he normally would just average. I mean, if think about if 60 more passing yards, if every one of his guys got 10 more yards or whatever, he wins that
It
handily.
it was.
2 years ago, when he beat you for the
Oh
championship,
my gosh.
he beat me by 9 points in the week before the championship game. So if my receiver or my quarterback, or oh no, I know I had a tight end playing. All he had to do was get one more catch for 10 yards, and I was playing you in the championship game, and I would have beat you because I
Yeah.
actually outproduced you the next week. Um,
His team that week put up the third least points out of all of the teams playing still in the playoffs. It was the third from the bottom. He just, whenever he plays against someone, somehow the other team just has a bad game. I don't.
Yep.
Again,
Oh,
it is
Efren.
insanely incredible how he does this. And if you
And we
go the
did this.
next
If
week,
you go back and watch our pre-draft show, the red carpet event before our league meeting this year, we kind of broke down how teams fell. Like Efren, for example, Efren was like top three in points scored every week.
yep,
But he also like was when people played him, they put up their best game. Like I think he was like top bottom three for points given up, which isn't his fault because you can't control that.
right,
Um, but so when everyone played them, they brought their best game.
yep.
So even if he had his best game, it didn't mean that he wouldn't still win, Which
So
obviously he was a top team last year. He made the playoffs
the
for.
week before in the playoffs, Nick had a middle of the road score. He was like 4 out of the 8 teams that were playing. But again, he faced one of the 3 others that were lower than him. He just, again, his matchups when he was playing, the
Oh yeah,
teams he
he
played
played. It
against,
was Will's team,
yeah,
and if you go back and look, Will would have beat him by over 200 points if they would have played the next week.
yep. It's insane. And again, hats off to him for pulling it off. But it's just crazy how he ended up winning this year, and it's good for him.
He's the king of
It makes me
sheer
happy
dumb
about
luck.
fantasy. It's crazy how this can go sometimes. So again, hats off to Nick putting this together. But again, his roster of the group so far, the least scary, which probably makes him the most scariest.
Yeah. Well, and just everyone knows he acquired the fifth overall pick in
Yeah,
this year's
so he's
draft.
got some
So,
talent coming his way, some young talent.
which my guess is he's gonna obviously address running back.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, having Kareem Hunt and Devin Singletary is nice, and Darius Geis. And again, if Darius Geis can stay healthy, that's a whole other story. And this is
Potentially, Geis is the best of the three running backs if you go just based off college production.
if you go off college production, sure, but if you go based upon who's in the training room and who's actually on the field, no.
Now, I did like the Singletary pick at first when he traded for him, but when this trade happened, it was before the NFL draft
Yeah,
because now they got Moss too. So it's
yeah,
kind of like, well, he's not. He's going to be in a timeshare probably,
more than likely, more than likely. It's just
but he's at least a young player. Now, if we were going to take five off this list to keep, Sutton for sure,
sure.
you're
Yep.
keeping. I think Galladay you're keeping.
Hmm.
I want to say Andrews you're going to keep. Um, I would keep Stafford.
I wouldn't. Why?
And the fifth spot, it's going to be between if Geis plays if he stays healthy and plays the way he's supposed to, I would keep Geis. Um, if Hunt was to actually come back and produce, like if Chubb got hurt and all of a sudden Hunt's playing a lot, then it'd be Hunt. But if Singletary,
Sure.
I would keep one of the three running backs. It would depend the circumstances at the end of the year which one I keep.
Look, I wouldn't keep Stafford. He's getting old at this point. He had a back injury last year. He, and even when he has been, he puts up good fantasy points, but he's an average quarterback at best. Like he puts up points because they're down by 30 and he makes comebacks on junk time. He's not a good quarterback.
Now I want to remember. I want to say he did he trade away his. Where's that one? I want to say Nick traded away next year's first, but I could be wrong.
Ooh,
No, he didn't.
I
He
was
didn't.
gonna
Never mind.
say.
Nope, he didn't. He didn't. Oh, that's right. I was trying to make a trade with him to get that. I forgot he told me no.
By the way, Nick, if you'd like to upgrade, please contact me. I'll be more than happy to take your first round next year off you. That's fine.
He would have done it for the Barkley deal.
Yeah,
And
you
so
know
many
what though?
people.
No, 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 no,
We'll get to that.
no,
We'll get to that
we'll
when
get
it's
to
time
that.
for
Yeah,
that one, I guess.
yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun topic. I was getting messages like
We'll talk
crazy.
about that later.
Nick, look at the end of the day, he's still going to be competing
Oh
for a
yeah,
division
yeah.
championship for
He's
sure.
he's still a threat.
Um, but the wheels they need air.
They do, but again, Nick's the type of fantasy football player or fantasy football owner that will make trades in the offseason, make pickups that are smart and sound to make his roster better. And this won't be like those 10 after his draft, like he will find stuff afterwards that will
Oh, duh.
bolster
You
his
know
roster.
what? And I thought his fifth keeper next year will probably be his fifth overall pick in this
More
draft.
than likely, unless something really goes wrong with that fifth round pick or fifth overall pick, but more than likely.
All right. So, any final thoughts?
Oh, no. No, other than I
We
wish I
want
knew
you to
how you
lose
did
this
it.
year, Nick.
Yeah, I really wish I knew how you did it. Soldier Soul or something is
Yep. You
ridiculous.
may have rose last year, but we're hoping you don't
Yeah,
bring home the glory in 2020.
nice play there. Nice play.
All right, we're moving on. All right, say hi, Andre Reed. Hi. And number 7, we have Rich Nillette. You got wide receiver Brashad Perriman, running back Benny Snell, linebacker Darius Leonard, wide receiver DK Metcalf, quarterback Drew Lock, wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, running back David Johnson, wide receiver Stefan Diggs, running back Aaron Jones, and wide receiver Michael Thomas. And there we got Rich right there. All right. Well, Rich is, of course, he won the championship in our second season ever. And he was in the championship third year of this league. He's only missed the playoffs. So this is going to be our 7th year. He's missed the playoffs twice. Last year was probably the worst year he's ever had. Nope, second worst year ever had. But he's still. No, he made the playoffs last year. Duh.
Yeah.
Duh. He made the playoffs. He only missed the playoffs once. But he was the 6th seed last year. Um, he's always been that solid team where it's a contender to win the division, a contender to make the playoffs. I don't think you ever roll into Rich's team and say, there's a win.
No, these 10 are scary. Like, Aaron Jones is incredible. He is great points. And I think David Johnson going to Houston, man,
Revitalize the career.
I think he's going to have a great year. I'm a little jealous. I mean, he's going to have a terrible career. Let me know if you want like a 4th round pick for this year for him. I'll be more than happy to make the trade.
I love DK Metcalf.
Yeah, you think?
Um, Darius Leonard is hands down the best linebacker for fantasy, at
Yeah,
least.
from a fantasy
Literally, I think right now it's all projections, of course, but right now it shows him getting. I want to say it was like 19 in our league, 1900 points. Second was like 400 points behind him. Like it has him getting like 125 points a game or something.
Well, and Stefan Diggs is a great wide receiver.
Yep.
And even Michael Thomas, like he is.
Michael Thomas, I think, is rated number 1 wide receiver right now.
I just looking at his roster, that is a scary set of wide receivers. It's a solid set of running backs. Even Benny Snell, like man,
I had him. I traded him to him.
sure, but Pittsburgh again, if Connor stays healthy, things could be interesting. But
And they drafted too.
yeah, the guy from Maryland,
Booger's kid, McFarland.
McFarland, yeah, who has incredible like big splash play possibility.
Right.
But again, it's Connor's role to lose.
Um, I like the. Now, obviously, he's not a rookie, but he's kind of going to be like a rookie because he didn't play much last year. But Drew Lock, I like Drew Lock. I liked him coming out of college. I thought about drafting him myself last year.
I'm not totally sold, but there's a chance.
And they've put, hey, he doesn't have a reason to say, oh, I didn't succeed because you didn't put stuff around me.
Well,
They're actually going in.
This year will tell a big tale.
Right.
I mean, it honestly reminds me of Baker Mayfield. Like last year, they put a lot of talent around Baker, and he couldn't get it done. Now, Drew Lock is not Baker Mayfield, which could be a good thing here. In which case, he will produce.
The kid's got a cannon.
He does. It's just a matter of is that cannon going to his receiver or is it going to the
Other team.
defensive back? So, and is he making the proper reads?
And like I said, we're talking Diggs. I mean,
Yeah.
he's Josh Allen, speaking of young quarterbacks that got an arm. I mean, he's gonna have a better situation than he had last year with Kirk Cousins.
I agree. And plus, I think you're going to see more out of Stefan Diggs too, just on the fact of attitude. Like he did not want to be
Right.
in Minnesota. You could just tell he was not happy there. And so going to Buffalo, granted, Buffalo is no prettier than Minneapolis by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to winners and stuff like that. But new fan base that's rabid for any form of success. You have a young division that the imperial army of the Patriots has taken a step backwards with Tom Brady. So
And Miami's still building up, and the Jets aren't there yet. So yeah, Buffalo in a way, I think Buffalo's the king of the division right now.
I don't know about that. You never can talk out Emperor Belichick, dude. Like no, I, you give him a toothpick a
It's a
match,
solid
and
defense there.
I
Solid team
yes,
defense in Buffalo.
he is the MacGyver of football. He is Emperor Belichick. No,
I'm not bowing to him.
I still wake up at 3 a.m. picturing Jesse James catching that ball, but somehow Belichick turned the referees against that, and Pittsburgh ended up playing Jacksonville in the first round and losing. Yes. So no, Buffalo should probably be the number one, but until
On paper, and this is all obviously all
as Ric
projections.
Flair would say, to be the man, ooh, you gotta beat the man. Just say,
Didn't they beat the man last year?
nope. Well, they might have beat them,
In the in,
but
isn't that how they got in the
they
playoffs?
were in the playoffs. But so is
Oh, the Titans were the ones that beat.
who
Titans were the ones
who
that beat New England. The Titans beat New England, right?
yeah, the Titans beat
Yeah,
New England this past
yeah.
year.
Where's this list? So I'm gonna look at.
Yeah,
If I was gonna sub anyone that he kept out, probably be Perriman. Um, for maybe not, maybe not. I don't know. But let's look at five. You're keeping five. I mean, this is an easy one to come up with five. Michael Thomas, Aaron Jones, Stefan Diggs. I'd say Metcalf, and then it's the five spot that you can throw up. If Locke has a great year, it's Locke. If Locke doesn't, then you might just go, well, I'm gonna keep the linebacker because he's the number one linebacker,
yeah,
and he produces more than some running backs do. So
I think so. Like again, his team is pretty darn good, but his five are definitely superstars. So
right,
I think that yeah. Where does he draft at this point for this year?
he doesn't have a first round pick.
Does he got a second?
Yeah,
Okay. Is it early or is it late?
it's hold on because he had some moving around. Sorry, I got like all these papers here. Where did I put that sheet?
The thing is that you would hope that in his for him a wide or a running back is still a need.
He picks it looks like 11th in the second.
11th in the second. So running back would still be a need. That's the reason why he had Benny Snell.
I say maybe go best player at that point. I
That's
mean,
probably where he's going to be at because there will be a
which
very good wide receiver
yeah,
still at that point, but he doesn't necessarily need
yeah.
a wide
No, he
receiver.
doesn't. But that's like we said earlier. With
Yeah,
we'll get to Nick in a second, Nick Ergang, but he might need a. We should probably we're not even halfway there yet.
yeah, we got to move.
All right. So final thoughts.
No,
Rich's team still
all
solid.
team is very good,
All
very
right.
very good.
All right, and here we go. Team number 8, which is going to make us, whoa, halfway there. Anthony Sykes. Wide receiver Tyler Lockett. Tight end Mike Gesicki. If I say any names wrong, please correct me.
No.
Kicker Will Lutz. Quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. Wide receiver John Brown. Defensive lineman Nick Bosa from The Ohio State
Oh.
University. Running back David Montgomery. Quarterback Kyler Murray. Running back Kenyon Drake. And wide receiver Juju Smith Schuster. And there's Anthony. All right, this obviously was one of the teams that struggled. Well, it actually did well early, and then it kind of fell off as the year went on because of injuries or what have you. Um, but he's coming back stronger than he was last year for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Again, he's set for quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have a good season, and Kyler Murray will be a fine backup from that standpoint. So he doesn't have to worry about a quarterback aspect. Um, his running backs are David Montgomery and Kenyon Drake, which okay, I mean it's not bad, but
No, he knew. I mean, he
he's healthy.
acquired Drake like literally the last week before
Right.
the keeper deadline. I mean, he knew he had to get. Now he did have 2 first-round picks this year, but he traded one of them away as part of the way to get Kenyon
Kenyon
Drake.
Drake,
So he
yeah.
still has a first-round pick. He has the 11th overall pick,
Okay.
if I remember.
Yeah.
Um, which I think he could use to for the running back position, or he could also use to bolster his receiver position.
It definitely could help with the receiver position. I think he can get a high end receiver at that point. He's gonna get I mean, again, there's probably 5 backs in the league that are going to be top premium backs to take. And of the first 11 picks, you hope one would be there, but there's a good chance that, a wide receiver or a quarterback is taken to push it out there. But my guess is wide receiver, the value is going to be too great there.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. If you look at his roster, well, first of all, his roster is definitely not a walkover team. I mean, they're good. They're gonna put up a fight. There's no question about that.
yeah, it's not one of the. I mean, like it's not Christina's roster of big names, but there's a lot of points to be had here.
I mean, John Brown, I like him.
Yeah,
With Josh Allen, that's a good connection. Obviously, Tyler Lockett.
this is
And
the second person that took or kept a kicker too. So
yep. And Will Lutz, obviously, in an offense that puts up a lot of points,
yeah,
so he's gonna get a lot of opportunities to kick.
sure,
If you're looking at 5 off this team, I think immediately you got Juju. I think you got Drake. I think you'll have Montgomery. And then from there, your last 2 spots. Um, it's going to be one of the quarterbacks, more than likely Murray, I would say over Garoppolo, but that could be all depends
it
on.
depends on this year. I mean, if
Um,
Kyler Murray takes a step forward, sure.
and then the 5th spot. I mean, the 5th spot, he could go 2 quarterbacks, keep 2 of them, and then he's good. Or also, I would consider Lockett is definitely a consideration.
Yeah, I, yeah, it,
In the division he's in, he's definitely has the opportunity. Like we said, Nick is taking a step back.
yep,
Tony's team, although better, is still a team that you
it's
can.
a work in progress.
Right, it's
Yeah,
still a work in progress. So he's in division where he could still have a shot to compete and have a shot at the division
yeah.
championship.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's not to that point yet. Next year's the 5-man keeper going into that draft is going to be huge for him.
Right.
Like I said, we're not trying to cut anyone short, but we have probably an hour or so before we can.
Yeah.
So we got to move it along a little bit more than we had done. We spent too much time on certain
On the
people
yeah, sorry
or
about that.
got some useless chatter. So we
Sure.
apologize, Anthony, and anyone going forward.
Yeah.
But as a whole, we think this is a um, competitive, solid roster.
It's again, it depends on how this year goes.
Right.
He's got I would say it could go one of two ways. He either could be in the playoffs or he could be bottom half or bottom third even. Um, if one of those people gets hurt, I mean, it's gonna put him in a
Right.
hard place. Like especially if it's Juju. Like if Juju does not have a good year this year,
I'd say the running backs more than the receivers.
I, well, I mean, yeah, but again, his running backs don't necessarily strike fear in my heart. Like Juju 2 years ago struck fear in people's heart. Like going against him was a scary endeavor.
I guess my point was it's easier to replace a receiver
Oh, sure,
than
sure.
a running
Yeah,
back
no,
in
it
our
is true.
league.
Yeah, it is true. Um, but again, I'm not too. This team could put up some good points,
Hmm.
but there's also a chance that this could be a bottom half team.
Yep.
So,
All right. Uh, moving on. I know why he's chuckling.
yep.
And here we go. Number 9. Jimmy Chase. Peyton Hillis winner, 2019. Wide receiver Debo Samuel. Quarterback Daniel Jones. Wide receiver Darius Slayton. Running back Tyreek Cohen. Wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Running back Alexander Matson. Tight end TJ Hawkinson. wide receiver A.J. Green, quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and running back Delvin Cook. And there's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's right.
All right, well, Jimmy, there's your team. All right, moving on. No, just kidding. Um, Jimmy obviously had a very very bad year. He's always
Yeah.
been. I mean, the first couple of years of the league, he won his division 2 years in a row to start the whole league.
Oh, when I drafted this team for him.
14 and 15, and then he finished third 1 year in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, and then he kind of went to the middle of the pack, and he's kind of been in the middle of the pack for a long, long time. And then last year which really surprised me, at the end of our draft, Yahoo does a projection of
Hmm.
he was projected to win the league last year
Sure.
coming out of the
Yeah.
draft. Um,
But AJ or they were going on Aaron Rodgers having his like stellar 5,000-yard passing season and 28 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and that didn't happen at
mhm,
all. Like Aaron Rodgers was a serviceable quarterback last year. He did good for Green Bay, good enough to get them to the playoffs and have a good year, but he didn't put up Aaron Rodgers numbers last year.
right.
So Delvin Cook is amazing.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that is amazing to have. And he's got AJ Green, which again, AJ Green hasn't been healthy since 1986. So if he can stay healthy this year,
Maybe 87.
maybe 87. If he can stay healthy, that's amazing. Especially with you have Joe Burrow coming in there, and he's got some other good wide receiving core
I
players
love the
missing.
Higgins pickup.
Man, I actually like Auden Tate on that team. Like, I think that kid's got a future ahead of him, and I think that's going to help AJ Green.
But looking at Jimmy's guy, so I think Debo Samuel is going to
Oh, he embarrasses people. Like he is good. He's
Daniel Jones.
I'm not sold on him, but
I'm not
I know
either.
Jimmy is.
And well, to his, but he doesn't have a bad roster around him as far as like he kept Slayton, and
Yep.
Slayton actually produced at the end of the year last
Yeah.
year.
They
So
they started to
when he
really
kept
connect.
Slayton, it made sense.
I
Um,
I
Cohen could be
yeah.
a hurt keeper.
Yep.
Deontay Johnson.
Again, it depends. It really depends on Ben.
I understand the Mattinson keep was essentially because of Delvin Cook.
Yep.
Because so I think as great as Cook is, he has had injury
Yeah,
problems.
he had that injury his rookie year.
And then obviously Hawkinson.
Wait.
I think with Stafford back, if Stafford stays healthy, could get some benefits from Stafford being healthy.
I'll tell you what, that first game he had looked very good, and then he got a concussion. So ever since that second game where he just got lights out in the end zone, he wasn't the same last year. Now
Right.
we're talking a whole new year. He's had time to work in the offseason, get a little bigger, get a little healthier. He could have a really good year.
Now, what everyone needs to understand is Jimmy has the second overall pick this year. Jimmy has the fourth overall pick this year,
Yeah.
and Jimmy has the ninth overall pick this year. So this roster is going to be bolstered once he gets those picks. I mean, more than likely, I'm assuming 2 and 4 are both running back picks.
No, the kickers.
Well, yeah, then that'd be a good spot to start taking linebacker
No,
too. And
yeah,
then
no.
at his ninth spot is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
His ninth spot, he could go receiver.
could.
He could go another running back.
Could.
Um, he could go a quarterback, a rookie quarterback. That's the rule is he can draft a rookie quarterback.
Sure.
So
But I don't
I don't
see
think he
that
will.
being
I
the
don't think
case.
I
He's
think
going
he'll
to
be
go running
receiver.
back, and my guess is wide receiver, or some form of mix there. It's going to be one running back, wide receiver, running back, or running back, wide receiver.
His roster, I think of all the ones we look at, in my opinion, he's not going to be bottom of the barrel.
No,
He's not going to be going for a second straight Peyton Hillis award.
no.
Um, but it's a lot of what ifs on this roster. What if they stay healthy? I mean, this is
Yeah.
almost a walking mash unit here.
Well, it depends. Like again, Deontay Johnson could have an amazing season this year. I mean, you have Juju Smith coming back. You have Ben there. You have James Washington or the rookie that they just drafted from Notre Dame.
Claypool.
Yeah, Claypool, who is gigantic, which just gives Deontay a little more time to get open, get a little more of his route running and
Or it takes
crispness.
away from him.
I, look, they're not gonna. Last year they double teamed him, and he was still putting up some points. I mean, Pittsburgh had Duck Johnson and Mason Rudolph throwing to him, and he was still able to put up points to be in a position to keep him.
Now the Mattinson pick is a wasted pick if Cook stays healthy the whole year.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I think that was an insurance taker, and again, I don't think he had a 10th person he was really sold on keeping at that point.
Right.
But
So
I'm
if you're
not against that, but his other 9 are so solid, it doesn't matter on that 10th.
you're keeping 5. Cook is definitely a keeper.
Yeah.
Hawkinson. Well, let's come
Uh,
back to Hawkinson. So Cook,
yeah.
Rogers.
No,
No.
I don't think so. Rogers is old, man.
Well, you got to keep 5 from
Yeah,
this.
time to say goodbye. He'll keep Daniel Jones over Rogers.
Okay.
I'm almost positive on that.
Debo Samuel definitely.
Yep.
Um, if healthy, but see Green's getting older too.
I know. This is very well, and again, he's got 3 picks in the first round.
Yep. Oh, you're
So
right. 3 of those
I
5.
mean,
So it's
there's
probably you're right.
there's
It's
a good
probably
chance
it's
that
Cook,
2 of
Samuel, and his
those are
3
coming
rookies.
home
Good
with him
point.
at
Good
least.
point. All
I would
right.
guess
So
2, if not 3, are coming
uh,
home.
so Jimmy, you're better than you were last year, but it's all depending on if you guys stay healthy. And of course, Jimmy was going to join us today, but he apparently isn't healthy.
Yeah, that
I
kind of
guess
scares
I
me.
guess like owner and team go against together here.
In this case, yes.
All
Ooh. Oof.
right, let's go back to Stone Cold.
Oh,
All right, on
is that
to
hair? Oh no, that's just freckles.
all right. Now we got Efren Keenan, first time playoff appearance last year. Tight end Evan Ingram, quarterback Jared Goff, wide receiver Curtis Samuel, running back Marlon Mack, wide receiver Devontae Parker, linebacker Blake Martinez, tight end Zach Ertz, wide receiver DJ Moore, quarterback Matt Ryan, running back Derrick Henry, and there's Efren. All right. Well, Efren, of course, made the playoffs, almost won the division last year. Um, comes back. I think his roster is better than it was. His 10 keepers this year are better than his 10 keepers were last year.
Oh yeah. Yep.
He's improved now. He did give up Mike Evans to get Devontae Parker, but also understand there were other benefits to that. He didn't just get. Let's see, where's that deal? He also acquired in that Mike Evans deal. He gave up Mike Evans, but got Jordan's first round pick next year. And Devontae Parker is not younger than Evans; they're actually the same age, but is a healthier
Version.
player.
Sure.
And Mike Evans, when healthy, is one of the top 5 receivers in the league. The problem is they don't go together because he's very rarely. So that was a very good move, I think, on
Yeah.
Efren's part, moving away from Evans. But quarterback, he's solid at quarterback this year. He doesn't have to draft a quarterback. I know you don't like Goff.
It's not that I don't like Goff. I just again he regressed a lot last year, and I think as a second quarterback that's fine. I think Matt Ryan will put up some good points for him. He basically can just toss a ball in the air, and either Julio or Calvin Ridley are coming down with it. So, um, having Jared Goff as a second quarterback, I don't see as a bad thing. You're right; he's set on quarterback.
He's set at tight end. I mean,
Yeah.
Zach Ertz is one of the top
Yep.
3, top 4 in the league,
Yep.
and Ingram is a great backup. And a situation where Ingram could get a lot of production if healthy.
Yeah.
There's another one
Yep.
if healthy because he's had issues with that. He's got one of the best receiving cores I think in the league. Now, mind you, 2 are from the same league, but you got Curtis Samuel gets production.
Yep.
DJ Moore has potential.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, obviously, they have a new quarterback there, which could be a difference,
Right.
or it could be a bonus too. It could be a.
Again, I think the jury's out on DJ Moore, but I would still it's still worth wagering a bet on.
I like the Parker acquisition a
Devontae
lot.
Parker. Yeah.
Marlon Mack, obviously they brought in
Yeah.
Taylor, but I mean Mack still has produced every year. The last 2 years he's produced.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Marlon Mack this year. Honestly, that's the one spot where I think Efren's team took a step backwards was
Second
Marlon
running
Mack.
back,
Like, yeah, and again, it's not that Marlon Mack's a bad running back. He had a good year last year
but
and put up a lot of points.
oh geez, he has to fall on the rushing leader Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Like,
1,500-yard running back last year,
yeah,
best running back in football.
yep.
So,
No, I don't know about
um,
that.
well, I mean, from a yardage
Yeah,
standpoint,
sure, we'll go with that. But
um,
in all honesty, having Derrick Henry is amazing. But Marlon Mack again will put up points. I don't think he's gonna go to zero or anything
right.
like that. I just have a feeling that Jonathan Taylor's gonna come in and make a big impact.
And Blake Martinez actually was one of the higher producing linebackers last year,
Yeah.
and projected to do no different. He's a tackling machine. That's why
Yep.
he gets
He gets the points.
so many points. You're looking at 5 off this roster for next year. You're keeping Derrick Henry. I think you're keeping Parker. I'm going to say Zach Ertz. I'm going to say Moore. And my final spot is going to, and it's all big. Oh, and probably Matt Ryan for my 5th spot.
Does he have a first rounder this year?
No,
Yeah.
but he's got 2 next year.
Yeah. I then my guess is Matt Ryan would be the keeper. I don't think. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jared Goff goes back
Now
to the way
Goff
he
is
was two
younger,
years ago.
obviously. So
Yeah. And if
if
he
Goff goes
figures
back
it
to what he
out,
did,
right? If he figures it out, then I could see him taking Goff over Matt Ryan just from an age standpoint. But
like I said, we can't spend a lot of time. So,
right.
am I still a solid roster?
Yeah.
Definitely still competing for the division,
Yeah.
Eastern Division, no question.
It's interesting because 2 years ago his roster was pretty rough, but
Right.
last year and he's made some big moves.
Yeah. All right. Good job, Efren. All right. And now we're moving on to Will. 3rd place last year. Won his division. We got wide receiver Cooper Kupp, quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, running back James Conner, wide receiver Marvin Jones, running back Kerryon Johnson, wide receiver Michael Gallup, tight end Jared Cook, running back Josh Jacobs, quarterback Dak Prescott. Oh, running back Saquon Barkley. And that's Will's keepers for this year. All right, bring us back to us. All right, now
I'd like to hold on before we say anything about this team. I'd like to state for the fact that 40% of his keepers were on my team at one point, either last year or the year before.
we got Cup, Connor,
Dak,
Dak,
Saquon.
and Saquon. Um, and hey, one of his guys I should have picked first overall last year, Josh
Probably.
Jacobs.
Probably.
Um, he's definitely made moves for 2020. Um, he's definitely saying, I am winning this division. I'm going to the playoffs,
And I'm
and
going to
I
win.
want to win this whole
Yeah,
thing this year.
absolutely. He's all in at this point in time.
I mean, there's not really a hole on this roster. Um, I mean, I guess if there's a hole, it would be the health of Kerryon Johnson and James Conner.
Yeah. Yeah.
If healthy, I mean, if healthy, he's got a top 5 running game in our league, if not possibly top 3.
If Connor is healthy the whole year, he's got a top three. I mean, and same thing with
Oh, that's
Saquon.
right. I forgot he's got 4 running backs.
Yeah.
So, um, at quarterback, he's not blowing you away at quarterback, but both guys are going to produce.
Dak put up a lot of points last year. It was kind of surprising.
I love Gallup.
To
I
the
think
point where the first 6 weeks I was really questioning the Deshaun Watson trade with him because Dak was outperforming Deshaun Watson by a lot in the first 4 weeks of our season.
if Cup if Goff plays like he did 2 years ago, the Cup deal it pays
Oh
off
yeah,
tremendously for him.
and Cup last year didn't have a bad year. He just got a hamstring injury like week 8. So
Jared Cook. Oh geez, look who he's got throwing to him.
yep,
Drew Brees.
Brees.
So there's a producer. I said the 2 Lions are probably the 2 that you're going to say, well, Marvin Jones is all dependent on the health of Matt Stafford and how well Stafford plays.
Yeah.
Kerryon Johnson is all dependent on how if he stays healthy, and of course you got DeAndre Swift there now as well. But in Barkley, I mean, my God, he's got arguably the best running back in football, definitely top 3.
I'd say it's top 3.
Um,
Saquon is amazing, but again, I don't think he's better than Delvin Cook, and I don't think he's better than Derrick Henry, and I don't think he's better than Christian McCaffrey. But he's still top 5.
can we get Ezekiel Elliott mentioned here, please?
You talking Ewoks? Thanks, Jimmy.
Anyways, um, I like this is going to be a scary team to
Yeah.
play. There's no
Um,
question.
I like Zeke a lot, but he's not in that group. Sorry.
Um, so I'm going to ask you this. We're going to go a little different route with this
Sure.
roster. Give me your starting lineup out of this.
Starting lineup out of this? Oof. Well, he's gonna go Dak Prescott as his quarterback.
I would agree
His running backs will be Saquon,
for sure.
uh, James Conner, and Josh Jacobs. I think those. Yeah,
He goes three running
he
backs
goes
for
3 running
sure.
backs, and then wide
I would say I
receivers.
would go Jacobs then.
Yeah,
Actually, I
yeah.
would go if he's healthy. I would go on Johnson actually,
Uh, sorry.
if healthy, obviously, and then
Until the curse is broken, you don't go with a Detroit running back. You just don't. The only reason why you draft a Detroit running back is to sell him for more than he's worth.
oh jeez.
Because we're in Michigan. That's the only reason why you draft any lion is
Like I said,
because homers will take more for him.
now he did give up a first round pick this year,
Yep.
but I mean it was bottom first round anyways.
Yep.
So um,
And he got Saquon out of that
he
deal.
got yeah.
So
So his five keepers next year, you're looking at Barkley for sure.
yep,
You're looking at Gallup.
sure.
Probably Prescott. You're looking at Jacobs,
Hmm.
and then the fifth. I think the fifth is all dependent on health and production. So in that discussion are going to be Cup, Jones, or Johnson, and Connor.
Yep.
And whichever one of those, and obviously depending, there could be moves made next year that could change everything
Yeah.
we're saying. But
Again, his team is scary for this year. But he's going to make some very tough decisions, and he's going to be looking to trade next year to try and get back a first rounder.
all right,
And
yeah,
again,
definitely,
the problem is that you only get to keep 5 next year,
yep.
so it's going to be very, very tough for someone to trade off their first round draft pick for somebody
But
for that year. I mean, that's
I mean, he's put himself, like we said, positioned to possibly win it all. So we're talking
right.
division championship, we're talking
Yeah,
sitting in the playoffs. So like I said, we got about 45 minutes probably to finish everything. We got five more teams and a few other things we wanted to cover.
yep,
So, Will, you're definitely a solid
yeah.
team, and I'm scared to play you. I can't
I'm
remember if
looking
I.
forward to see how you do next year. I
You
think it's
got to
going to be a
face him
good year.
twice
Yeah,
every year. So,
yep.
all right, good job, Will. All right, and on to next. Nick Ergang. We have wide receiver Jamison Crowder, kicker Justin Tucker, receiver Jalen Hurd, quarterback Baker Mayfield, wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders, running back Miles Sanders, wide receiver Kenny Stills, running back Austin Eckler, wide receiver Terry McLaurin from The Ohio State University, and quarterback Lamar Jackson, Mr. MVP himself.
Yep.
And there's Nick. All right. So on this roster, now first of all, he does have the sixth overall pick in this year's draft.
Oof.
Um, this isn't a roster. This might, of all the teams we talked about, and I hate saying this, might be the weakest roster as a whole. But I look at this as, and I think he'll agree, just like we were talking Tony's earlier, this is a 2021
Team.
roster.
Yeah. I,
Um,
yeah.
because you're looking. Let's just start. Let's just go with the five we're keeping for 2021. You're keeping Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
You're keeping Miles Sanders. You're keeping Eckler. You're keeping McLaurin. And then I'd say probably for number five, more than likely,
Wait,
probably
what pick does
Baker.
he have this year?
Hmm?
What pick?
Six. Oh,
Out of
and
20.
right, you know what? It's his fifth is gonna be that sixth
More
overall
than likely.
pick. Um, but this isn't a walkover team necessarily either, because if everyone produces, it's
Yeah.
not a walk up and you get the win.
I'd like to state that for people on YouTube that can go back and watch this, take a look at Baker Mayfield's picture. He's throwing off his back foot. That's kind of a testament to Baker Mayfield and his abilities. Just saying. Um,
Good observation.
yeah. Yeah, I think Nick's gonna have a good season this year. It's not gonna be great. He'll be probably bottom half, but he's really setting himself up for
Hmm.
2021. I definitely like Eckler. I definitely like Lamar Jackson. I think he's gonna have a great year.
You know how many
Again,
different offers
as
I've
long as
given
he
him for
stays healthy.
McLaurin?
What's that?
You know how many offers I've given him for McLaurin?
Really?
Oh my God,
Oh,
yes.
I'm not surprised by that. Again, he's an Ohio State,
The Ohio State.
a Ohio State.
Okay, fine. And I happen to have his quarterback too, but
Sure.
like, that's the one thing is, and Nick actually has won his division before in the
Yeah.
past, and he's been in the best of the rest. He's won it a few years ago. And he kind of had a roster like what you're talking about earlier. I mean, he had a stud wide receiver. He'd probably arguably the best wide receiver crew at one time, but age has kind of moved
Yeah.
him
Like
on.
Emmanuel Sanders is getting old now.
Right, but he had Emmanuel Sanders when Sanders was like a stud with
Yeah,
Denver.
with
He
Denver.
had
And he
Demarius
had Peyton
Thomas when
Manning.
Demarius Thomas was putting
Yep.
up huge numbers.
Yeah.
Um, Geez, who else did he have? He had one other like he had like arguably the best receiving core, but age has caught up,
Sure.
and but it's a rebuild, and next year is going to help him more than any other team. I think next year's five keepers having the ability to kind of restructure your unit, I
I
think
think if your
helps.
name is Nick, next year is really good for you.
Nick, period, huh? And they're in the
Yeah.
same division too,
Yeah.
by the way. But like I said, we'd love to talk more, but we got to keep this
No,
moving.
he's
So
he's in good shape for next year.
yep, you're definitely you're a bit up and comer.
Yeah.
All right, and we're gonna move on to what we got here. We got four
Awesome.
teams left. We have second runner up last. Oh no, Guy.
Oh, it's Guy?
Sorry, I have him the wrong order here.
Oh,
Guy
sorry.
Conkey, former league champion. We got Merkel Hardiman. I said that wrong, I know. Tight end Darren Waller, quarterback Andy Dalton, wide receiver Robbie Anderson, the Buffalo Bills defense, wide receiver N'Keal Harry, oh, running back Joe Mixon, wide receiver DJ Chark, quarterback Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know why he didn't show up in there. There's Guy. He also has defensive lineman Aaron Donald. I apologize. I don't know why that did not make our
Yeah.
video. It was supposed to be in there.
It's like
Um,
Guy just inserting himself ahead of the pack too.
yeah,
He just pushed himself
yeah.
forward.
Originally, I had it written as Ross, and I'm hoping Ross is on there now.
Oh man.
No, he is. He is. 'Cause I pre-watched this and I forgot
All
when I.
right.
Anyway, so let's look at his roster. He did surprise me with a little bit. He gave up Galladay and he gave up Geist to get Mixon, which um, you're giving up top 10 receiver.
With
Top,
Galladay?
yeah, 15.
I'd say top 15. I don't know if I'd say
Um,
top 10.
and
He's
with
young,
with
so he
Geist
has
is
a lot
pure
of upside.
production. Or pure potential is what you're getting up
Yeah.
there to get 1,000-yard running back. So if I'm him, this is a good move.
Yeah, I thought it was a good move. I yeah.
And then he also acquired N'Keal Harry, which is a young wide receiver, was a rookie last year. Um, had some not so stellar moments. He had some where he ran some wrong routes, I think, last year.
Sure.
Tom Brady was not a fan of
No, he's
N'Keal
not
Harry,
a
if I
huge fan
remember.
of him.
I like the Robbie Anderson. He acquired that one as well. That
Yeah.
was in the Kenyon Drake deal.
Yep.
And that's another one, that receiver that's going to Carolina. Waller had a great year. Um, Chark is expected to have a big year
I
for
think so.
Jacksonville, but that's a huge discussion. I mean, that's all dependent on
Jacksonville
how.
is a dumpster fire, man.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe they'll put it together.
And of course, you wrap this all up. Oh, did we mention he's got
Yeah.
quarterback Patrick Mahomes?
And that's the reason why you can't overlook his team ever, because Patrick Mahomes will put up 600 points in our league the way that we have our point structure set up, and we'll just win you a game.
And he also has, to go with all this greatness, let's see, he has the seventh overall pick,
Okay.
and he has the 10th overall pick in this year's draft. So
So he's hoping to score another running back.
another running back and probably another receiver.
Yeah, I would think so. I would be
Um,
shocked if he didn't, or if by some weird chance he could get two running backs. That would be his absolute best thing that he could hope
what
for.
are your thoughts on the Dalton keep? I was surprised. I'm
So
not gonna lie. I was surprised.
um, based upon last year, I think it's a good move. The problem is that you have Dak Prescott, who is now in a contract year, and if there's one thing I've always learned about contract year and players in general, is their best years are their contract years
Right.
because they're playing for future money. Like they're just gonna light it up. And so Dak has a chance to do that. Now, does Dak have the ability to do that?
Right.
Um, I don't know. I will say this.
You got the best backup in football right now, probably.
Honestly, like who knows if they put Dalton behind Dallas's front line and he gets to just hand the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott and every once in a while make a
He's
toss
got a good
over to
receiving core.
I know, make a toss out there. He could easily put up some pretty good numbers. And it's not like Dalton's ever been a bad quarterback. He just has either gotten injured, like with his arm injury that one
Had
year,
his players getting injured.
his players getting injured, or his stupid players on his team absolutely scuttling a championship run. Like,
I think you'll be the first one to say this. If Vontez,
oh man,
if that hit doesn't happen, they're
they're
beating.
yeah they've won the game.
Well,
The
and
game
you
is
know what?
over.
We shouldn't put that out because it was Pac-Man had a lot to help with that
Sure,
too.
but again, the game was over at that point. There was no reason Pittsburgh should have won that game at all. And I look at Andy Dalton, and it's not his play that has ever hindered the Bengals.
Right.
Now, does he warrant a superstar level of talent or of a situation? Like, does someone think of him as a top 15 or top 10 quarterback? No, but I think he's probably 16, 17. I think, or even maybe 14 or 15. Like he's not top 10. He's not. He's definitely not top five. But in the same respect, he's at least serviceable. He will get the job done, and he will again with that talent in Dallas. Man, I hope Dak stays healthy because otherwise he's gonna be sitting that bench for a very long time afterwards.
Tight end Waller, he had a good year last year.
Yeah,
Kind of an up and comer. Um, obviously he's got Aaron Donald. On paper, um, he's definitely one of the best interior defensive linemen in the
Aaron
league.
Donald. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And then the Bills defense, if I recall, they should still be pretty solid. They have one of the best secondaries in
Sure.
football. So, um, guys team definitely still solid. It'll be even better once he adds those two rookies.
Yeah,
If you're looking at five keepers, let's see. You're definitely going to start with. Um,
Mahomes.
I don't know. I don't know about
Maybe not.
Mahomes if you
Maybe
keep
not.
him.
But
I don't know. You definitely keep Mixon,
yep.
but you're right. Mahomes, Mixon. Um, I would keep Harry if he produces. If he has a good year.
Mm,
Coming out of college, the kid was really good.
sure. Yeah.
And then Hardiman is another one that's kind of like if he has a good year, because he's in a situation where he's kind of sharing time.
Yeah. But he's got the seventh and 10th pick too. He's got two
Oh yeah,
rookies that
oh yeah,
could
duh.
easily slot into 4 and
I
5.
keep forgetting those first rounders.
But they're important this year still.
They are.
Um, yeah, guys team. While it doesn't look super scary right now, it's gonna get ugly here after
Yeah,
the
it's
first
gonna
round.
get.
It's
We
gonna
don't
get
mean ugly in a bad way.
yeah. Sorry, being in having to face him, it's gonna be scary.
All right, so definitely a playoff contender.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I can't say a division contender, but like I said, we'll get to that if we have time to cover that stuff. So we're gonna move on here. Now, if it goes, it should be who I thought was going to be the last one. This should be Ross. Oh my God, I completely forgot Ross. We got Jordan here. We got wide receiver Brandon Cooks,
Hmm.
running back Damian Williams, quarterback Gardner Minshew. You love the picture.
I gotta throw
Wide
football in this
receiver
one.
Sammy Watkins, running back Sony Michelle, tight end Rob Gronkowski,
Oh man.
wide receiver Jarvis Landry, running back
Oh,
Raheem
Mostert.
Mozart,
Mostert.
wide receiver Mike Evans, and quarterback Tom Brady. And there's Jordan. All right, so Jordan is another one of those teams that we were talking about earlier that was always there's a win.
Yeah. Oh, 2 years
Those
ago.
days are gone.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, this is a solid receiving core, um, a solid running game.
Hmm.
It's a solid. This is definitely. I mean, his weakest spot would be backup quarterback.
So Raheem Mostert is going to have a really good year this year. He came in very late for San Francisco last year, and that was a very late pickup for him at the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And for him to have that fortune from last year, it's going to pay off dividends this year. Like that's one of those value picks that he picked up late that's going to pay off. And then for him to somehow win the Rob Gronkowski lottery of ridiculousness of actually trading for the rights and getting him, that's insane. So I
I got a first round pick out of that for next year, so to me it was worth it.
oh yeah, no,
When I drafted Gronkowski, I hope you understand, I drafted him specifically for this reason. I just thought the trade was going to happen
sure,
last year, not
sure.
during the offseason.
It paid off from that
Yeah.
standpoint. So um
But with that being said, so Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to be in a situation from a passing standpoint, best situation he's ever probably been in.
sure. Yep.
Evans, who he owns, I mean, he's got two of Brady's targets. I mean, he's going by the old school Joe Miller philosophy here, except it's no longer Patriots, it's Bucks.
Yeah. Well, he's following Tom Brady, so to speak. I guess that's the way to look at it.
Right.
Another person that absolutely came out of the woodwork last year was Sammy Watkins. He got revitalized when he went to Kansas City and
Hmm.
put up a heck of a year. And I hope he can continue that, obviously, from a standpoint of fantasy aspect, because,
Well, and Landry, we were talking earlier about Beckham
yeah,
and Baker, but Landry's the one exception because even if
oh,
Baker has a bad year, Landry still gets catches.
yeah, Landry is, he was their best wide receiver last year.
Absolutely. He
It
was.
wasn't even
I still wish
close.
he was a Dolphin. I hated
Yeah,
the fact that they traded him away.
it wasn't even close. And it's funny because I almost felt like it's weird for me to feel bad for a Cleveland Brown player. I almost felt bad for Jarvis Landry because he he tried, and like he tried to get Odell to to get on board with this team, and you could just tell that Odell just had one foot out the door all season.
No, Jarvis Landry is a captain.
Yeah, and you feel bad when a captain like that is doing everything in his power to win games, and things are just being undermined
I
right out
think
from underneath him.
when we're looking at this roster, you definitely are not looking forward to playing Jordan twice a year.
No,
But I think this is the one team in your division, and we'll get to your team, of course. I think this is the one team in your division that has a shot at really at will if everything plays out the way he hopes they do.
it
If
depends.
they all produce the way that they should, I think he has got a solid. This is his best chance at the playoffs for sure.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's not saying much because 2 years ago he was. I mean, again,
You're
I
right.
look at his roster and like Ray's roster. Those 2 years ago were just abysmal,
Hmm.
and they've made moves to get to a point where they can actually put forth a very solid team week in and week out. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to playing Jordan per se. I'm not saying that his team is just an auto win this year, but um, he's got a chance, and that's the first time I think we've been able to say that for him.
Oh yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah, like I said, we don't keeping five off this for next year. I think a lot of it depends on health because and age. Because here's an example: Mike Evans is someone you should keep,
yep,
but if he doesn't stay healthy, I don't
sure.
know. Tom Brady because of age. I'd say Jarvis
Eh,
Landry is the one definite keeper.
so far,
I'd say Sony Michelle,
yep.
Cooks. See, he doesn't have a first round pick this year, so he's got to keep five off this list. So
Again, I'm keeping Raheem Mostert as well. Or yeah, I really am. I think he's gonna have a
yeah,
really good
well,
year this
because with
year.
Williams' case, I don't know if Williams is there in Kansas City in
Right.
2021.
It's possible, but again, I really think Raheem Mostert. And again, I may be overselling him, but I
Right.
he looked really good in that Super Bowl. He looked really good playing. Like I think he's got a good future ahead of
But
him.
Jordan, you got a good
Yeah,
future in front of
it's
you.
solid. It's solid.
All right, like I said,
Good moves.
we hate that we're cutting some of you guys short, but we literally got about a half an hour to finish this up. So um, it's either you or Ross.
Yeah, one of the
If
two.
it's you, then I don't know if I might have actually somehow missed Ross on here. I don't know how that happened. I swear I put it in. All right, we got
That's
Mark
me.
Thompson.
All right. Hey, back when I could get my hair cut.
We got wide receiver James Washington, defensive back Justin Simmons, wide receiver Hunter Renfro, linebacker Devin Bush, Wide receiver Will Fuller. Tight end George Kittle. Wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, sorry. Quarterback Deshaun Watson. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill. And running back Christian McCaffrey. And there's Mark. Well, you're all smiles in that last picture, so you gonna be all smiles the end of this year?
Heck yeah. Are you kidding me? You forgot to mention that I have a second first round next year, a second round, and a second third round next year. So
But you don't have a first round this year.
no, I do. I have the 14th overall pick.
Oh, that's right, you acquired that. I
So I have
forgot.
that, and I have an extra second round this year too. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Now again, it cost me Saquon, which isn't, and Cooper Cup. So again, it's not like I didn't give up stuff, but I'm feeling pretty
No,
good about
it's yeah.
this.
You're solid at quarterback. You have Watson as long as he
Yep.
stays healthy. I mean, you need a backup quarterback, obviously, but you're
Do I
solid
though?
at your starter.
I can just lose a week. I'm fine.
You have what top three definitely tight end in Kittle.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and then if Fuller stays healthy, Fuller produces
Oh
with
man.
Watson. I mean, it's a good pairing. If he stays,
If
the
he
only problem
stays
is he never
healthy,
stays healthy.
I am look. I may have to have a conversation with the devil on this one because if he stays healthy, man, for a season, oh, the one game where him and Deshaun hooked up for like 300 yards and four TDs or three TDs or whatever this year, where Deshaun put up 500 points and he put up 500 points. It was the game where I put up like 2,000 points. It was the first time I broken 2,000 points in our league, and it was insane.
Oh,
And I'm
that
just like,
was.
oh my gosh, this is it. And then he got hurt again. So,
So then we got obviously receiver Tyreek Hill.
yep,
Obviously he puts over 100 points a game.
yep, easy.
McCaffrey. I mean, what? Renfro's your weak spot.
So, and that's the funny thing. Well, I would say James Washington was the weak spot. So, Hunter Renfro and James Washington. It,
I disagree. I like the Washington actually. I like Washington. Washington in college. If him now that he's a year in, if him and Roethlisberger can get on the same page, if Roethlisberger's thrown to him last year, I see him having a big year. I really do. I think he gets the numbers that Johnson got.
maybe. So my the reason why I think James Washington was the last, or why he was last on my list, I think Claypool is going to come in and be
I
a
forgot about
monster.
him.
He is going to be a monster. He is 6'4", runs like they were talking about the combine numbers. He was Calvin Johnson. Like I don't think he will be as good as Calvin Johnson because that's very very tough to do. But if you're going to look like a wide receiver and run like a wide receiver and have the body of a wide receiver, that's the one I'm going to try and prototype myself off of, and that's him. So if he's flying down the field and catching 60-yard bombs from Big Ben,
Hmm.
he's gonna put up some heck of a numbers, and that's why I think you look at Juju and you look at Deontay, they have a good spot in this. The problem is while James Washington is a speedster, I don't know if he's going to get enough playing time to be able to be worth the
Maybe.
keep. So it came down to him. Another one that I had thought of was Marquise Valdez-Scantling from Green Bay. But again, I don't think him and Aaron Rodgers get along, and I just don't see him putting up consistent fantasy points ever
Um,
because of that.
I'm gonna give who I think your five next year are.
All right, fire away. Let me see what you think.
I think you're gonna keep McCaffrey.
Debatable. We'll see. Maybe I'll trade him.
I think you're gonna keep Hill,
Okay,
Deshaun Watson,
sure.
Kittle.
Yep.
Now five, I'm gonna go off this roster, but I think your fifth is gonna be your 14th overall pick. I'm gonna go off your roster. I'm going to say Fuller, but I think if you get the right person at 14 overall, that's your fifth keeper.
It's possible. I can tell you this right now. And as you saw with Saquon Barkley, because he was on my roster just a week ago, everyone's for sale. I mean, you'd have to give me the world for Christian McCaffrey and even Tyreek Hill, but
Now, I want to go back to this. This is something that I know we have like 25 minutes to cover this, but I have to bring this up. He trades Barkley. So the year he drafted him, the first overall pick, I tried.
Yep,
to
he
get him.
did.
And I was literally told, and none of the what disappoints me is none of this was involved in this trade. I was told that I could have him if I was able to get him Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, um, Le'Veon Bell. Um, it was season tickets to the
Yep,
Steelers in a suite
yep.
and a parking pass for the season.
Well, you asked me what I wanted.
Right,
That's what I wanted.
but you understand, I would have done the deal if you didn't ask for the parking pass.
Oh, jeez, man, so close.
That was the tipping point for me was the parking pass.
So, and again, credit to Will for coming to me and actually producing a trade. And this is why, when Nick said I would have given you more, I kind of laughed because he never offered.
Right.
I mean, Will at least had the stones to offer me that
Oh, he
trade.
offered me for Elliott, and I've always told people like, you know, it's that's not for sale.
Right. Look, we put value on players, but to sit there and say that nobody is for sale is, at least from my end, that's not true. If someone were to come to me and say, "I will offer you my first round draft pick next year, I will offer you my first round pick this year, and or my second round next year, and like three other things plus an amazing player for or a good player for Christian McCaffrey," like if they overload that trade to the point where I can't say no, I'm not going to say no.
Hmm.
But again, it's hard to make that pick. Will was on the idea of I'm winning this year. Like you can tell based upon the moves he's made
Oh,
and his
absolutely.
roster and his 10 keepers,
Oh,
he's basically said it's this year. I'm
it's a
winning
scary
this
team.
year.
I think it's the scariest roster that we've gone over,
For this year, yes, absolutely. He's going to have some
minus
very
rookies, obviously.
right.
Like we
He's
said,
going to
this is
have
based
some
off your keepers.
hard decisions come next
Hmm.
winter, but for this year, I love his chances to try and win this.
And like
And
I said, we're going to have time, I think, to talk about the divisions. In my opinion, though, you're still in the conversation to win your division.
sure,
You're still in the conversation to make the
yeah.
playoffs. It's still a competitive team, and arguably, which could now be the most competitive division. Um, I'm going to roll the next
Well,
slide.
hold on.
Oh,
I'm still willing to trade basically anyone on here. I mean, come at me with Deshaun Watson. Come at me with Will Fuller. I'm listening. I'm listening, guys. Listen. Just saying.
so this isn't an official offer, but if I offered right now, you said anyone on this list?
Sure.
So if I offered you the number one overall pick right now for Deshaun Jackson, what am I getting an answer of?
Yes.
That was a joke, of course.
Yes. Yes.
That was of
Yes.
course.
You guys heard it. You heard
That
this.
was a joke. I said it wasn't an official
Yes.
offer, but I'm gonna try to roll the next slide. And if it's not Ross's face that shows up, then we're gonna just have to talk about Ross, and I
Yep.
apologize. So here we go. There's Mark. And
Sir
it's
not
not.
appearing
So
this round.
all right. So yeah, Ross, you didn't have any keepers this year. Sorry. No, let's just name them off here. So Ross Carlson, of course, he was second, finished second last
Mhm.
year. Um, arguably should have probably won the whole thing.
Yeah.
His team didn't perform. So here we go. Here's his 10. We got running back Elvin Kamara, quarterback Sam Darnold, running back Ronald Jones, wide receiver Allen Robinson, running back Daryl Henderson, wide receiver Devontae Adams, running back Chris Carson, tight end Travis Kelsey, wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, and quarterback Russell Wilson. Should we just pencil him in for
He's
at
in the
least the finals
playoffs.
right now?
He's definitely in the playoffs. Like again, his wide receiving core most people would kill for, and we're in a 16 team league. Like that's amazing right there.
Plus tight end.
Yeah, yeah. Kelsey is no joke.
I mean, you could say running back's his biggest weakness, but
It
it's
is.
not. I mean, but
No, it is. It's his biggest weakness.
no, it's his biggest weakness, but it's
Yeah, it's not a weakness for. I mean, look, a lot of people would kill for Kamara and Henderson and Carson as their
but
weakness.
also like with Carson's case, it's health.
Yep. Yeah.
With Henderson's case is well, first of all, he's got a rookie coming in with him
Hmm.
in Akers, and he didn't show anything last year when he got opportunity. In Ronald Jones, it's the same case as Henderson. And then obviously Kamara is Elvin Kamara. The problem is Elvin Kamara is not like a three down back.
No, he's usually
So you're going to get production obviously out of Kamara,
yeah.
and you're going to start him every week.
Sure.
But
Yeah, look, his shining beacon is Russell Wilson and his wide receivers.
right,
Like that.
And Kelsey.
And Kelsey, yeah, and Kelsey, yeah. I
Top.
keep forgetting
I mean,
Kelsey.
really, you could go Kelsey, Kittle.
I, it's hard to. I mean, I again, if you were to just go fantasy numbers, maybe Kittle over Kelsey because of age at this point. Um, but if you
He
were to
did get hurt
go,
last year too.
what's that?
Kittle got hurt for a little bit
He
last year, if I
did,
recall.
but still, I mean, Kelsey had a heck of a year,
Right.
and he's consistently put up amazing years over the last like 4 or 5, and that was with Alex Smith, and now he's got Mahomes thrown to him, and you just see a different side of him now. He's become a little more veteran, a little more grizzled, which is
Mhm.
good, um, but he's still putting up amazing numbers. So
All right, so we got 20 minutes. So give me your
yeah,
5.
from his list,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with Kelsey, DeAndre Hopkins, Russell Wilson, Devontae Adams. Man, does he have a pick this year?
Yes,
Oh my
he's
gosh.
got 15.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. Oh no.
Does he have an earlier pick? Because if he's got an earlier pick, oh my gosh.
Hold on. He did, but I no, he doesn't have a
He
first
does
round.
not.
I actually
Okay.
got his first round pick.
So then, ooh, probably
He's
Kamara.
got 2 first round next year though.
Does he really? Oh my gosh, he's gonna be scary next year again. I guess Kamara as the fifth, just because of the premium of running backs.
Let's see.
Well,
Yeah, I got his first, but I think he's got 2 second round picks this year.
yeah,
But no, I mean, just you go based off his. I mean, he's definitely in contention to win his division again.
yeah.
Like we said, possibly win the whole thing. So him and Will are probably the 2 scariest teams we've talked about out of these 16. But everyone's better.
So far, I mean, I wouldn't say everyone's better. That can't happen. You can't just have everyone better. Some people had to slide back. Like I'd
Right.
say my team is not as good as it
Well,
was
yeah,
last
you're
year.
right. I mean, I guess I'm also I'm thinking too far ahead with draft. Right now, you're right. On paper, my team is worse.
Right, right. So I would say from like competitive of the league standpoint, the teams that were in bad shape have put themselves in a better position for next year. Um, the teams that were at the top, you can see that they had to make moves so that they didn't get hit by the 10 picks. Now, the nice thing is like in your case and in my case and a few others, we've made moves to put ourselves to have good picks this year, but then we're also looking at the future too.
Right.
So the question will be come next year, where are we sitting pick wise for everybody? And then on top of that, who are the 5 keepers for them?
We have about 15, 17 minutes here.
Sure.
Let's roll around to what I have kind of come up with is the best 25. And I'm just gonna. It's just you're gonna roll down pictures here.
And
Well,
these are current NFL players, right?
yep, these aren't rookies. These are
Okay.
the best 25 that were not capped and not in a specific order. So the best of the rest happens to be a championship trophy in our league.
Yep.
We got linebacker Levante David, tight end Dawson Knox, running back Devontae Freeman, and we'll briefly talk about some of these why I put them
Yeah.
on here. Quarterback Derek Carr, linebacker Demario Davis, tight end OJ Howard, kicker Harrison Buckner, linebacker Jordan Hicks, wide receiver Devin Funches, wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, linebacker TJ Watt, linebacker Joe Schubert, defensive back Harrison Smith, wide receiver Anthony Miller, wide receiver Sterling Shepard, tight end Austin Hooper, tight end David Njoku, wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey, wide receiver Dede Westbrook, Wide receiver Christian Kirk. Linebacker Bobby Wagner. Defensive back Jamal Adams. Defensive back Landon Collins. Linebacker. Oh, sorry. There's two that didn't make it on here. I put linebacker Devin White and tight end Greg Olson. All right. We're just going to kind of shoot through these real quick. Levante David, still projected to get around 100 points based on he's a tackling machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The reason I put Dawson Knox on here is potential. Potential
Okay.
with Josh Allen.
With Josh Allen.
They had a good connection. It seemed like at the end of the year. I do know he was someone that Tony had considered keeping as well.
Sure.
Along now, Devontae Freeman. He doesn't have a team right now. He actually may not even play this year. He's on here if he gets a team. Because if he gets a team, he may not start, but he's gonna get production somehow.
Yeah, I can see that.
His problem is he wants too much money for
Right.
where he
For
is in
where
his
he's at.
career.
Yep.
Derek Carr is obviously on here because he's the top-rated quarterback that
That's
wasn't
open.
kept.
Sure.
Demario Davis is another machine, kind of like Levante David. It's going to get a lot of tackles, a lot of points. OJ Howard's on here because of potential.
Hmm. I see that.
Kicker Harrison Buckner is the best kicker left available. Linebacker Jordan Hicks is in that top 10 discussion for fantasy linebackers. Wide receiver Devin Funches is on here because of the possibilities with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I can see that logic.
Uh,
I don't know. I'm not totally sold on Funches, but we'll see.
Larry Fitzgerald's on here because he's Larry Fitzgerald,
Yeah, and even at like 85 years old, he's still really
and he's
good.
still going to get a lot of
Yeah,
catches.
he really is.
Linebacker T.J. Watt, um,
He's kind of good.
he's kind of
He
good.
should have been Defensive Player of the Year. Just saying.
Linebacker Joe Schubert, another tackling machine, is going to
Yeah.
get points because he gets a lot of tackles. Harrison Smith is that safety that's going to get you a lot of tackles.
Yep.
I had him a few years ago. We've got wide receiver
Yeah,
Anthony Miller.
when we were doing the beta testing of the
Yeah.
Defenses.
The XFL. Wide receiver Anthony Miller. Obviously, he's all dependent on how the quarterback plays in Chicago. Sterling Shepard has potential, with
Depends on Daniel Jones.
right. And then you got two tight ends from Cleveland. Both are dependent on who outdoes the other one in Hooper and Njoku.
Both
And
of those.
also depends on Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
But potentially, hey, Hooper had it really good in Atlanta.
Yeah, he did. He did, which is why I think he's going to have well.
A
You would
drop
think
off.
he was going to have a good year.
Elshon Jeffrey is going to be more of a drop off at this point.
Yeah.
But he's still worthy enough of being in the top 25, I think, argument. D.D. Westbrook is another one of those. L depends on how Gardner Minshew does.
Yep.
Christian Kirk actually surprised me. He wasn't kept.
A little bit. Yeah.
But that also is a crowded room
Yeah.
in Arizona.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner is another one that surprised me that wasn't kept. You could arguably say is the best available linebacker in this draft. He's in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, definitely top 5. Definitely top 5.
Jamal Adams and Landon Collins are both defensive backs that are going to produce points. And a fair number. They're going to be in the upper echelon for safeties.
Yep.
Devin White is a young linebacker who I did consider keeping. I think he's projected right now to get about 70, 75 a game. So he's an up and coming young player.
Sure.
And Greg Olson is on here only because he's in a position to get catches from Russell Wilson. And I think Russell Wilson
fair.
will respect his talent, his career, and will throw him the football if need be.
I worry just on
Health.
the Jimmy Graham
Oh,
situation.
well, Jimmy Graham is in
He's
Chicago.
Right, but
Oh, you're talking.
when he went to Seattle, there was a drop off from when he was with Drew Brees and
But don't you think Jimmy Graham, looking at Jimmy Graham's career, it was all based off what he did in New Orleans?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was definitely a significant drop off when he went to Seattle, and then when he ended up in Green Bay. So it hasn't been the same for him.
Right. But I don't think that's necessarily a comparable situation as much as I think it's a Jimmy Graham situation.
That's true. I mean, it depends.
You go to Green Bay. My God, if you want an opportunity to resurrect your career, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing to you.
You have a prima donna quarterback throwing to you who has issues with his wide receivers and stuff, and won't throw to you if you disagree with him.
True.
I'm sorry, but I mean, Aaron
But
Rodgers
Russell
is a heck of
Wilson
a
didn't have
talent, but
that.
he gets in the head.
Russell Wilson isn't a prima donna quarterback,
No,
and
that's
he's
what
a
I'm saying.
possible
That's
future Hall of
that's the
Famer.
one thing with the Jimmy Graham aspect. Like I would have thought when he went to Seattle, he had a really good shot of making a big impact there, and just didn't work.
All right,
So yeah.
I want to quick roll the rookie footage here,
Oh sure.
and then we'll wrap up. So these are all the rookies that are available in our draft, obviously, and you're going to see a lot of them. So Joe Burrow, of course, Tua
Hmm.
Tagla, say it, I
To a
can't.
yeah, I got nothing.
Justin Herbert, quarterback, Chargers. Wide receiver Henry Ruggs.
Is the
Did
third.
surprise me that he was the first receiver off the board.
Yeah. Wow.
Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion, is the best receiver in this draft.
Mhm.
CeeDee Lamb, a steal to Dallas. Jalen Ruger, I don't know. I think that was a reach at the position they drafted him. Justin Jefferson, I think, is the next best receiver in this draft. Brandon Ayuk actually is the best yards after catch receiver in this draft. Jordan Love, I think he'll get drafted in our draft, but he's not going high. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, possibly the first overall pick, possibly the second. T. Higgins,
He's not the first.
Michael Pittman, receiver out of USC. We got DeAndre Swift, running back, going to Detroit.
Hmm.
Jonathan Taylor, the rookie running back, going to the Colts. Love that pick by them, by the way.
I do too.
Um, receiver out of Colorado. I am not trying to say that name.
Nope.
Cole Kmet, the tight end, going to Chicago. KJ Hamler, receiver out of Penn State, going to Denver. Pittsburgh getting Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame, receiver. The Rams drafting Cam Akers, which I thought was a great pick, although I
Yeah.
think they should take the next guy, or next running back.
I was gonna say
Jalen Hurts out of Philly. J.K. Dobbins going to Baltimore. I think he should have went to the Rams.
he is gonna have a good year.
Van Jefferson going to the Rams. Denzel Mims going to the Jets, receiver out of Baylor. A.J. Dillon is going to be a great backup change of pace back in Green Bay.
Yeah, with Aaron Jones.
Keyshawn Vaughn will have potential to start in Tampa, if not back up.
Yeah.
Brian Edwards, receiver out of South Carolina, the Raiders. Zach Moss, who I think is going to have a lot of value in our draft. Um, this guy was just one of the higher running backs that was left. Jake Fromm, obviously he's going to be back up, but will probably get drafted late in our draft. And Jacob Eason, I could see possibly drafted late in our draft as well. There's our theme, bring home the glory. We got what, about 7 minutes here? Let's just wrap up. Let's break down these divisions really, really quickly. We'll start with the Eastern Division. And I want you to, you can kind of, I want you to play off this division because it's my division. You can take the rookies that are coming out, the first round picks, whatever, into consideration, but try to weigh more heavily on the keepers. So you got Dennis, myself, Efren, and Jimmy. Give me how you think they're going to finish in order.
If you're going solely off the rosters they kept.
You know what? Let's just do that. Let's just do keepers. Don't even count rookies. Just go solely off rosters
Okay,
kept.
I can give you a quick. I would say it's going to be Ephraim winning the division. I think you'll finish second. I think Jimmy will finish third, and I think down south, which is
Dennis.
Dennis, will finish fourth in the division. Now, that being said, there's a good chance that Jimmy makes a jump higher if his rookies pay off. And same thing with you. If your rookies pay off, that could change everything. But you guys got a straight gold with those rookies.
I actually would go. I would go Efren first. I would go Dennis second.
You think you're going to drop to third?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going based
If you're
off
going
just
based
this.
on your
Yep.
keepers. Okay, that's fair.
Um,
I can see that.
and then I see Jimmy isn't too far behind me.
Hmm.
All right. So next up we have the Northern Division, which of course is Nick Ritz's division.
Yep.
So you have Nick Ritz, Nick Ergang, Tony Mize, Anthony Sykes.
Uh, man, somehow Nick does it again and somehow finishes close to first, if not first. Um, I think, man, you could see.
I like Anthony second.
You do?
I do. I like actually.
I think you're right. I think that I don't know if Tony's got enough to go to third. Um, he's made some great moves. I just don't know if he can get to third place at this point.
Actually, you're right. He can't, and I'll tell you why. If you break Ergang and Tony's teams down, okay, you give the edge to Ergang in quarterback.
Hmm.
You give the edge to Ergang in running back.
Yep.
Um,
His
now,
receivers are a little old.
obviously, now defensively, Tony, because Tony also kept three defensive players, understand that. But based surely off receivers that they have, tight end obviously goes to Tony.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's. I think you're right. I think you go. It's Ritz, Anthony, Ergang, Tony,
At this point.
but they're close.
Yeah, it's
They're
not as
close.
it's
It's
it,
not.
no. I could see
And
that being
and I think
completely off.
Anthony is closer to Nick than people are going to give him credit to.
Yep.
All right, next we got the Southern Division. I'm sorry, the Western Division, which is Rich, Ross. Ross, of course, won it last year. Rich, Ross, Raymond, and Christina. I don't. I think we'll both agree that Ross will win the division,
Yeah, I think so. Um,
but I think you're going to have a change at second. I think Ray takes second,
Based upon the keepers that he got this year, yes. Um,
but third is tight.
yeah, because Christina,
I like Christina
I don't know,
actually.
Christina could sneak up to second with that
She
roster.
could. No, you're right. She could. We're not saying that. I like actually. I like Ross, Ray, Christina, and Rich, and it's a tighter fight than.
Yeah. While I don't know, I think this division is going to be very competitive this year. I think they're going to beat themselves up.
And now, which I'm going to say is, in my opinion, is the most difficult division in our league right now, is the Southern Division, which is Will, yourself, Jordan, and Guy. I'm going to go first and say this. I'm going to say Will's going to win it.
Okay.
I'm actually going to go Jordan second.
I'd like to state that I put up 2,000 points more than any other team in my division.
That was last year.
Yeah. Just saying.
I'm going to say Jordan second, you third, and Guy fourth. But again, I don't think one and two is a close discussion. I think two, three, and four are. Actually, two and three are closer than probably two and three are to four.
Yeah,
You and Mark, or you and Jordan, I think could get flip flopped.
it could be. I could see myself in third. I could
I'm
also see
going
myself in
based off
second.
overall potential of what the 10 are.
Sure. No, I'm with you on that one. I don't think you're far off with that guess. Um, but who knows? I mean, with the draft and everything else,
Right.
it's going to play a
And
big.
here's a good example. Okay, so there was the year before you finished second, you were the worst team.
Hmm.
And then so you had 2 years in a row where you were the worst team, and then third year out you finished. The year Guy won it, he took over for a team that was an expansion team the year before, finished at the bottom. I don't remember. He was the bottom five. I know that. Um, and he won it his first year.
Flipped it around.
So it's not like this isn't an unheard
No,
of thing.
yeah,
Nick had never made the playoffs the first year he won it. He made the playoffs and then he won it. And then obviously he's been winning it since.
sure.
Um, but I think one thing we can take from everything is it's no longer Nick and everybody else.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot
Yeah,
of it's come down.
the parody has happened, which is what we kind of wanted here.
Right. Oh, we want everyone to be competitive. I
Yep.
mean, number one, I can tell you this: I've won my division 3 times. I've been in the playoffs 3 times, and every year that I won it, trust me, I don't want to have a team that I walk in. It sounds weird. I don't want to have a team I walk in and beat them instantly before the game even starts. And here's why I say that: because I need that team. I don't want a team that's in my division or a team that I'm contending with to make the playoffs to have that same stake. Oh, there's a win. Like I want to at least be like, well, there's a chance that they might lose. It's competitive at least or something.
I think from a league standpoint, it's healthy that the parity is there. I think me as a player every week, I want to walk in knowing I'm crushing them from the start.
Well, obviously, yes, I
But
understand.
from a health of the league standpoint, yeah, absolutely. I want that to be. I want teams to be basically 500 for the most
Here's what
part.
I'm saying. So like, let's say, you and Jordan are playing for the final playoff spot.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're playing. Let's say you're playing. Um, just I'm gonna say random teams here. You're playing my team, and Jordan's playing um, Raymond's team.
Hmm.
Okay. Don't even look at. I'm trying to say this in a different way. I'm trying to. How am I trying to say this? So you want to go into your matchup saying, well, I have a good chance of beating Eric this week, but I don't want to. Like it's going to be a tight fight. But I don't want to have Jordan playing Raymond saying, well, Jordan's going to win.
Right.
You'll say, well, I hope at least I hope I'm pushing for Raymond to win.
But
You know,
yeah.
and another reason you say that is if things get close and it comes down to a point differential, you don't want them, you don't want also, well, he won that by 200 points, and that could put him above you. Because the first tiebreaker is obviously overall record is the first tiebreaker, but for divisional stuff, it actually comes down to if they're tied. So let's say you're both 8-8 or 7 and whatever, you have the same record. In division is the first breaker.
Hmm.
So if you like say you win five, you go 5-1 your division, and he goes 2-4, well, you won the division.
Right.
But if you both have the same in division record, the next tiebreaker is points scored.
Correct. So we had a situation where four teams were vying for that last playoff spot at
Last
in our
week,
last week, and
3 were in the same division.
what's that?
3 were in the same
Three were in the
division.
same division, and somehow two of the four or two of the slots went to um, that division because you had a better divisional record than I did, and you had a better.
Well, no, that doesn't that had nothing to do with you. That one didn't affect you. That just got me in. The one that was with you was Rich.
Was it
It
Rich?
would have been Rich's spot. Rich got the 6th spot.
Yeah, you're right. And Rich had, but again, it was 6, 7, or no, it was six and.
I wouldn't have got in if I didn't win my division. Mine had nothing to do with winning. Mine just
Oh,
I got in
yours
because
was
of my
because of
division.
division. That's
If I
right.
didn't win my division, I didn't even come close.
Right. Well, no, because that put Ephraim or
Efren was already in.
he was already in. So yeah, it was Rich that had the, but there was three people that were vying for that last spot,
Hmm.
and that's what you want at the end of the season is you want as many people as
Oh,
possible
it was the most
fighting for
competitive
playoffs.
year we ever had. I
Yeah.
mean, despite the fact there was a couple teams that only had a couple wins, overall it was the most competitive. Like I said, at the start of the year, the first half of the year, Anthony and Ritz, for example, in their division were like neck and neck.
Yep.
I think Anthony actually went past him at one point. There was a week where I think he actually had passed Nick, and then Nick took it back and then never let go of it. But um, oh, I know you got to get going. We got to wrap this
Yeah.
up. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Yeah. It was great.
Um, oh shoot, all this time
I
we've been
was facing to
talking.
bring home the glory.
Hi. So that's the whole point is we want someone to bring home the glory. I want to bring home the glory. I
I,
know that.
I wouldn't mind it. I
Um,
definitely would not complain about bringing home that glory.
the one thing, Nick, you're not bringing home the glory in 2020.
I hope not, man. I mean, if you do, I need to figure out your voodoo witchcraft because that is insane how you've put that together. So
Um,
it's awesome.
but thank you for those that joined
Yeah,
us. We appreciate it. We hope we were entertaining. For
ish.
anyone that isn't in our league, we hope you learned something out of this. Um, our next broadcast will probably be sometime in July. We'll throw something together like a
Yeah,
pre-draft look. I don't know if Mark will be joining me. I don't know who we'll have.
we'll see.
We always try to get someone. So thanks for being here. I know we're
Yeah,
not supposed to do that, but I don't care.
yeah,
Um,
be all right.
so with that being said, we're going to end the stream right now, and